Welcome, everybody, to the August 5th, 2025 meeting of the Tompkins County Legislature. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call of members, please.
Shauna Black.
Here.
Travis Brooks.
Here.
Randy Brown.
Here.
Amanda Champion.
Here.
Deborah Dawson.
Here.
Rich John. Ann Corman.
Present.
Mike Lane.
Here.
Greg Mezzi.
Here.
Dan Nolan. Veronica Pillar. Lee Shirtliff.
Here.
Mike Sigler.
Here.
Dan Klein.
Here. 11 members present. We have a quorum. I didn't gavel us in tonight because there was a little surprise waiting on the desk. Giant-sized gavel, and it didn't seem appropriate. So I just want to thank Katrina for finding that treasure at it's reused too. Yes. It wasn't purchased new. Thank you. To the county.
Dan will all be good.
Yeah.
So let's see, we're going to start out tonight with a poet laureate reading from Nicole Basta. Do we have a little introduction for Nicole? Or Megan Barber, Executive Director of the Community Arts Partnership. Welcome.
Good evening, everyone. Is this, yeah, great. I was here back in January to present our 2025 Poet Laureate, Dan Rosenberg. And he, unfortunately, has had to move out of the community. So the Community Arts Partnership has selected a new Poet Laureate, and very happy to introduce her. Her name is Nicole Basta, and I'll let her introduce herself and read a poem.
Hi. Thank you. I'm super honored to accept being the Tompkins County Poet Laureate. I moved to Ithaca in 2006 for the first time to study at Ithaca College with, one of the people I studied with was the very first Poet Laureate of Tompkins County, Catherine Houdbahan. I wrote a poem for this occasion the other day, and the title comes from one of my poetic ancestors, Adrienne Rich. It's called Poetry Never Stood a Chance of Standing Outside History. You can write a poem about anything. Water snake quickening the shore, man on a bench, a dropped melon lobbying in the parking lot wind. You can write a poem on any day, like this day, where the froth of a waterfall gathers and gathers. But can I call myself a poet if I perform no alchemy? If in the white of where the water falls, I do not also see the white of a shroud that covers a dead child. I've never claimed to be good at numbers, but here are two. In the last 668 days, over 60,000 killed in Palestine. Dead is a word, killed is another, forcibly starved is two. And when do marks on a paper become more than letters? Can language do much other than pray? Yet in truth, we know there is power, for in a voice, not only a song. For I am not here to merely soothe you, beloved. This is a time to be so fierce and awake. Poet is a word that means human, that means witness, that means turning toward. And so, in that vein, never, not ever away. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have a proclamation that I will read. It is, well, I'll read it. Whereas the Tompkins County Office for the Aging first opened its doors to serve the community in January 1975 and has served the older adults of Tompkins County for 50 years, providing essential programs and services which promote health, independence, and well-being. And whereas the Office for the Aging plays a vital role in our community, offering resources and support to help older adults age in place, whether at home, in senior housing, or other facilities. And whereas the Office for the Aging facilitates access to critical services, including nutrition programs, health insurance counseling, health promotion programs, and more. And whereas Office for the Aging has made significant contributions to the lives of older adults, helping them to remain active, engaged, and contributing members of the community. And whereas the Office for the Aging is looking forward to the next 50 years of continued service to the Tompkins County community. And whereas Tompkins County recognizes the contributions of older adults and the essential services provided by the Office for the Aging, which benefit not only seniors, but also the entire community, therefore be it resolved that the Tompkins County Legislature does hereby proclaim July 25th, 2025 as the 50th anniversary celebration of the Tompkins County Office for the Aging in Tompkins County and celebrates their longtime service and dedication. And here to accept the proclamation is Lisa Monroe, the Director of the County Office for the Aging. Lisa? Yeah, we rehearsed this.
Thank you.
Okay. All yours, Lisa.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Happy to accept this and be part of COFA's history. Speaking of that, Katrina and crew did a little digging for historical purposes for me. I got a really cool picture of the board. It's black and white. It's a little old looking, but of the initial board that passed the resolution creating the department. So I thought that was interesting. And I'll just mention there's been 5 directors in the 50 years. Susan Clark was the first one in January 27, 1975. So the doors opened with the new director then. Also Margaret Harding, Irene Stein, and Lisa Holmes, and after Lisa, myself. So to celebrate this, we had a senior living expo that we brought back after not having it since 2020. It was successful. Dan was there. He presented the proclamation to us. We had about 150 community members that came in, so that was nice. Had about 30 aging services partners tabling with us, so that was great. Director Greg Olson from NYSOFA spoke at the event too. So there's been a lot of changes over the past 50 years, and there's a lot more to come. But our mission is still the same. And I just want to thank everybody for their support, and also here's to 50 more years of service and support. So thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. Before we go any further, I just want to make a short announcement because I know there's a lot of people here for privilege of the floor, and everyone is welcome at privilege of the floor. We did send out a press release earlier today, and I don't know if people in the audience have seen it or not, and I just want to briefly say what it is, and then, of course, if you still want to talk on privilege of the floor, you are 100% welcome to do so. I know that people were going to come to speak about the Board of Elections possible temporary move to Lansing, and we sent out a press release this morning that we will not be moving the Board of Elections outside of the city of Ithaca. Now, there is a resolution on the floor that says that, and we'll have to amend it, and we'll have to vote on it, and you know, when you vote, anything could happen, but I feel pretty confident in saying that the Board of Elections will not be moving out of the city of Ithaca. So given all that, if that changes your statement for privilege of the floor, fine. If not, that is fine also. Thanks. We do not have any executive sessions scheduled for tonight. We do have quite a bit of reordering of business, if that's acceptable to the body. So let me say what I have here. First of all, our finance director is at out of town at a conference and zooming in, so I'm going to be moving him up right after I finish this section before we go to privilege of the floor. Then, After privilege of the floor, after we go through the regular agenda right through the consent agenda, then I would like to next do Resolution J, which is the temporary moving of the county departments that maybe many people are here to talk about. I know that resolutions A, B, and C are going to be pulled from the agenda and that there's staff here for that, so I would like to do those. And then also Resolution K, I know we have some staff for that. So if that is acceptable to the legislators, I would like to do all that reordering. I'm seeing some nods. Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Okay, then next up is Darrell Tuttle, Director of Finance, joining us by Zoom. Hi, Darrell, you're on.
Hi, good evening. Thank you, Dan. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Awesome. I just have two things to report. The first one being our sales tax report for June should be in your red folder. So overall for June, we received a total of $8,462,000. This is a 8.14% increase over June of 2024. The county kind of mimicked the total. The county received $4,760,000, but mimicked it in the way of the increase being also an 8.14% increase. The municipalities received $1,982,000, which was a 21.12% increase over June of last year. And the city of Ithaca received $1,720,000, which was actually a 3.75% decrease. Now, this is only through June, which is half the year. The county did budget $43,240,000, and through June, this brings us to 50.33% of the overall budget of sales tax.
Thank you. Do we have questions or comments for our finance director? Ann?
Yeah, Darrell, thank you very much for this report. And with, some kind of different numbers than we've seen, at least in a little while, especially, with the increase for the county, huge increase for the municipalities at 21.12%. So many of us report these back to our municipalities. Is this for this month? I know some months are reconciliations or estimates. Can you tell us anything else about this figure, these figures?
So these figures are probably an estimation. They tend to true it up at the end of the quarters. So this is just June.
But the end of June that's the end of a quarter, right? No?
What I can do is I can check into that to verify and I can get back to you guys. But as far as I know, I would treat them as an estimate. I'll have to make sure that the quarterly piece is in.
And maybe the quarterly is the end of, are there a month off too,
There's probably a lag,
right?
Annie, because the state needs to get it out, so.
Yeah, just wondering, because I know some of us will have questions. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, and I apologize. I can't answer that directly right now, but I can definitely look into it and get back to you as soon as possible.
I appreciate that.
Any other questions or comments? I'll just mention, since the public probably can't see this form, it wasn't in the agenda packet, the numbers that Darrell gave were the monthly numbers, which were good, mostly good numbers. But then overall for the year, each of the city, the county, and the municipalities are all about 7% above last year. So for the whole year.
Yes, that is correct. Thank you, Dan, for that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, Darrell, thank you. Enjoy your conference, and we'll text you if we need you.
Okay, that sounds fantastic. Thank you.
Okay, we are now up to privilege of the floor for the public. If you're interested in speaking tonight, what we'd ask you to do is go to the back room, grab one of these blue forms, fill it out, bring it up to us, and we'll get you in the queue to speak. If you are going to speak tonight, you're agreeing to some rules, which I will now read. I agree to a 3-minute time limit. I agree not to raise my voice. I agree not to use lewd, obscene, profane, slanderous, or libelous language, or speak or act in a manner that would tend to incite a breach of the peace. I agree not to speak about county personnel matters. Personnel matters include comments about the job performance of named county employees other than elected officials. After 3 minutes, I agree to leave the microphone and yield the floor. Transferring time to another person is not permitted. I agree to be courteous and not make comments, gestures, outbursts, or other disruptions while other members of the public or legislators are speaking. I agree that if I cause a disruption and am asked to leave, I will leave the chambers. We did receive one set of comments, and this person asked that they be read if possible. I am not going to read them, but I can tell you that it was asking us not to move the Board of Elections, and if anybody would like to see the full commentary, we can definitely share that, right? After the meeting, we will share it. Thank you. And there's nobody on Zoom, is that correct? Okay. Then, first up is Diane Dawson.
Good evening. Just for the record, I'm not related to Deborah Dawson, but we're very nice people.
She obviously doesn't know me.
My home is in the town of Lansing. I am a former trustee and deputy mayor of the village of Lansing when I was a tenant and living in Lansing. Mayor Ann Furry, the second mayor of the village, was a visionary and felt that tenants should be represented on the village board. And she came knocking on my apartment door one weekend afternoon, and she was so compelling, I just stood there in awe. So I was privileged to serve, and Ann has now passed away at age 91. I'm here representing some organizations, but Sally Grubb is here from the League of Women Voters, and she will speak for herself. Is Mary Carol Lindblom here? Mary Carol is from the American Association of University Women, Ithaca branch, and is the New York State Board Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Chair. I am a member of both organizations, the League of Women Voters and the American Association of University Women. My purpose tonight has slightly changed with your resolution. It was absolutely essential that the Board of Elections remain in downtown Ithaca to serve the people. However, I am still not very satisfied with the Dutch Mill Road location. It's an industrial park. It was designed for that purpose. And with Micron going in at Clay, New York, near Syracuse, we don't know what kind of activities and income we would have from development in our industrial park. There are other issues with the Dutch Mill Road. There is limited TCAT bus service, number 47 weekdays and number 77 weekends, but only from downtown Ithaca and very infrequently. The next closest TCAT stop is 2 miles away at the airport. As the sign says, the Dutch Mill Road property off Warren Road is an industrial park. The people there work there. The property is not suitable for regular access by individual voters or those seeking assessment reviews. If it is zoned industrial, office use will not be allowed. Ithaca is the county seat, and the Board of Elections should be at the county seat in Ithaca. Is that my 3 minutes?
It is. If you want to finish up your thoughts briefly, that would be okay.
I think I have about 1 more minute, if you may. Voting information is so very important, obviously, to our democracy. Accessibility is absolutely vital. But I do have some suggestions for the county board to consider. Look at rental space at the Ithaca Mall on Trip Hammer Road, very close to Route 13, until a long-term location in Ithaca is resolved. The mall is served by TCAT and Gadabout. The mall is easily accessible by foot, on bike, or vehicles and has plenty of free parking. The mall has restrooms and food service. The mall has been used, I believe, by the county for emergency planning. Many doctors' offices are now located at the mall. These are people service functions. Once again, we strongly urge the county legislators to vote no on the purchase of property in the industrial park on Dutch Mill Road in Lansing. This is not an appropriate location for these people service functions. Thank you for the opportunity to speak and for your service to the people of Tompkins County. Thank you.
Next up is Barbara Logan.
Hello, my name is Barbara Logan. I'm a retired school counselor from TST BOCES. I lived in the county of Ithaca since 1993. And I'm going to start off by saying thank you, all of you, for all you do for this county. I think you all do a great job. And I'm really glad about the proclamation for all the reasons that people have said that the Board of Elections needs to be accessible for people who don't drive, for people who don't have money for a car, for people who don't have gas to an inaccessible place. And I was just going to, in addition to the mall, I was also going to suggest where the administrators just moved. I just got an email about the administrators are going to be on Green Street. I mean, no disrespect to the administrators, but that's not a public-facing office so much. So maybe Board of Elections could go there. But anyway, thank you again, and hope everybody has a great summer.
Next up, Sally Grubb.
Good evening. My name is Sally Grubb, and I'm here to speak to you on behalf of the League of Women Voters of Tompkins County, an active 90-member strong organization. But before I start, I would like to thank you all for the work you do on our behalf. Without legislators working as you do, we have no democracy. I would also like to thank the administration for all that they do for the county and also for their responses to our messages of concern. You have an unenviable job to do responding to community requests and fulfilling the needs of both the voting public and the Board of Election Office itself. The Tompkins County League's primary concern about the proposed temporary location for the Board of Elections during the time the new county headquarters is being constructed, possibly 5 years, has always been accessibility. The work of the Board of Elections is not done and cannot be done totally online or by phone or by voter registration events. During election season, many jobs have to be done in person. Training of poll workers is done in person. Victims of domestic violence must pick up their ballots in person. Easy in-person to the Board of Elections is important, especially 10 days before major elections when it's too late for ballots to be mailed. A satellite split office concept is not feasible for the Board of Elections, given the need for security, legal procedures, and the teamwork required for secure, non-partisan staffing protocols. And then, of course, your perpetual headache, parking, both for the county employee and as well as the public. Thank you for listening to the League of Women Voters of Tompkins County concerns. You can't do your jobs adequately if we, members of the community, are not civically engaged and don't reach out and talk to you. But we should talk to you before you take action, not afterwards. We should have shared our concerns with you much earlier. We now look forward to hearing your discussions this evening. Thank you.
John Hunt.
Hello, I'll be brief. Also about the Board of Elections. I'm John Hunt of Ithaca. I'm opposed to the idea of moving the Tompkins County Board of Elections to a location north of the airport on Dutch Mill Road. It is important that the Board of Elections be easily accessible to all voters for all elections. The Board of Elections should remain within walking distance from Ithaca's public transportation hub, or at least be near a bus stop that is serviced regularly during the Board of Elections hours of operation. Moving the Board of Elections for any amount of time away from the population center of the county is, in my opinion, unwise. Thank you, and I'm glad for your press release.
Next up, Irene Weiser.
Hi, everyone. Irene Weiser here from the town of Caroline. I'm here to speak in opposition to the resolution tonight. I very much appreciate your responsiveness in regards to the issue concerning the Board of Election. But something stood out to me in the press release, which was nice to see. And it was the keeping the BOE within the seat of government is not only logistical necessity, but a symbolic commitment to the values of transparency, accessibility, and civic trust. And I'd like to suggest that that a few things. I believe that moving the Department of Assessment out there is still under consideration. When there was the presentation of the survey results on the center of government, the three offices that had the most public traffic were Board of Elections, COFA, and Assessment. So I have concerns about moving any of them out to Dutch Mill Road. It's inaccessible for some of the functions of government that are central to democracy. Certainly, you know, everybody has warm feelings about elections and voter registration, all that. Yay, I'm glad we do here. I think there's not so much love for assessment, but it's an element of democracy to be able to have redress and to have that accessible as well. And COFA, I mean, come on, we want senior citizens to have to travel all the way out to Siberia to get services. It just seems crazy. So I oppose. I also, just to speak to the lack of transparency in this resolution, it gives you just carte blanche authority to move county departments out to Dutch Mill Road without naming what they are, which is, there's no transparency there for members of the community, concerned members who use these services to weigh in. So for those reasons, I oppose the resolution. I do want to counter that with, I recognize how challenging this real estate market is. I know how fast good things get snatched up, and that you guys need to be able to be nimble to grab something when you see it's right. And so what I'd like to suggest is that there be criteria drawn up for the various departments and what their needs for public access actually are. And that then, you know, those criteria could be put to public comment and then move forward in the nimbleness that you need. Thanks.
Next up, Zach Wynn.
Good evening. Last Friday, the 1st of August, saw another roadblock downtown on Seneca Street. This is precisely the kind of incident I was hoping the legislature would discourage by issuing a proclamation asking people to keep their protests within the bound of the law. The Ithaca police were once again transformed into facilitators of this illegal activity, blocking traffic for the roadblock instead of enforcing the law. This protest was performed under the pretense of the plight of the people of Gaza. It is worth noting that the same day this roadblock was conducted, Hamas released a video of Eyatar David, held hostage since October 7th, emaciated in a tunnel, subjected to a grotesque act of psychological torture, being forced to dig what was said to be his own grave. The rationale for these roadblocks has continually shifted for over a decade since they began around 2014. And since then, I don't think there has been any meaningful condemnation or even discouragement of the behavior by the legislature. Every time that a roadblock is performed without consequence or condemnation, it encourages future roadblocks. This type of arrogant conduct undermines the plight of the Palestinian people and alienates those who might otherwise support their cause. These roadblocks are also one of the reasons why people avoid coming downtown. They are dangerous not only to the people performing them, but also to those who might be delayed while being transported during a medical emergency, either in a private vehicle or an ambulance. It is only a handful of people responsible for this behavior. Please consider simply asking the parties responsible to please stop conducting roadblocks. You don't know if it will work until you try. Please make it clear to them and to the public that roadblocks are not an acceptable form of protest. A one-sentence statement is all that is necessary. The public should be aware that roadblocks are not an acceptable form of protest. To remain silent on this issue signals your tacit approval of the behavior. Thank you.
Next up, Andres Champlin.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. My name is Andrea Champlin. I am the statewide systems advocate at the Finger Lakes Independent Center. I was coming here today to discuss the proposed move of the Board of Elections to Dutch Mill Road. Thank you so much for your work and for the press release stating that you will not be doing that change. I would still like to go ahead in the hopes that my comments will influence potential selections. Though many of the services and resources the Board of Elections provides can be accessed remotely, it's important to remember that this does not work for everyone. It has to remain available to voters as an in-person resource. People across Tompkins County have differing levels of ability and comfort with accessing information remotely based on a variety of factors like geographic area, access to technology itself, and their ability status. Simply put, remote access does not work for everyone. The proposed location is not easily reached via public transportation, which some folks have already spoken about. I'd like to particularly highlight the mobility difficulties of the location. I drove up to the site myself yesterday to take a look at it, and if there's any other buildings proposed, I'd like this to be considered. If somebody was to take a bus there and be let off at the intersection of Warren Road and Dutch Mill Road, there are no sidewalks, there are no curb cuts. I don't know if I would be able to push a mobility device through that as an able-bodied human. So it is my hope that whenever you are looking at a potential location, think to yourself, how would you maneuver that if you were someone that could not walk easily, that could not independently go about without those mobility devices. In addition to folks with disabilities and different functional needs, there's also folks that use strollers, all kinds of things. So it's my hope that accessibility will be prioritized and considered when you're selecting additional locations. Thank you for your time. Have a good evening.
Next up, Robert Lynch.
Good evening. Robert Lynch, councilperson, Town of Enfield. I'm speaking here largely for myself tonight. I wasn't intending to come to this meeting, but something that came to my attention today made me very concerned and frankly, a little bit angry. And I'll tell you what it is, and I won't mention any county personalities other than one member of this legislature whom I respect very much, and that person is Lee Shurtleff, our legislator from Groton. Mr. Shurtleff had authored a resolution that was put on the agenda, and I read it. It talked about relocating assessment and Board of Elections temporarily to the property that's already been referenced at 31 Dutch Mill Road. I think it's a good place, and I think the board should be there. Believe it or not, I disagree with some of the people in this gallery tonight. I think it would be a good location, especially for us in the rural communities that don't like having to go that great distance all the way, park 4 blocks away from the Board of Elections in all kinds of inclement weather and slough our way to the board to do our business. This is very easy. It has convenient, free parking, and for the rural people, we like it a lot. Now, what concerned me was that a press release issued today, and the press release indicated that the county has decided not to move the Board of Elections to Lansing, which to me smacks as an insult to Legislator Shurtleff. He had proposed a resolution. He could have brought it to the floor tonight. It could have been voted on, it could have been amended, and it could have therefore have been appropriate to issue a news release tomorrow indicating that the majority of the legislature had decided not to have the Board of Elections move. But that wasn't what it was done. You see, we as a county, Tompkins County, and I've reminded you of this before, we have a legislature-dominated county government. We don't have an elected county executive. We have a legislature that decides these things. And it should have been brought to the floor, and it should have been voted on. Now, perhaps Legislator Shurtleff had amended the resolution prior to tonight's meeting. But I sensed that special interest groups did some arm twisting in recent days and either forced the legislator himself to amend the resolution or forced others in county government, including members of this legislature, to perhaps temper this resolution with the red folder version that I have on my clipboard tonight. So I'm concerned about this. I think good government demands better. I think your charter demands better. And frankly, I would like to see the legislature take up the resolution as originally drafted, amended appropriately, and then deal with it as the legislature sees fit. Thank you.
Next up, Connie Sterling Engman.
I'm Connie Sterling Engman, and I'm representing myself. I originally planned to speak against the relocation of the BOE. I've heard about the change of plans and want to thank you for that. I appreciate the legislature for such a quick response, although now that I've heard this gentleman's concerns, I think maybe a little more thought has to go into making sure that all points of view are heard, and Mr. Shurtleff. So I respect that. Maybe I'm not fully informed about rural people. That's possible, since I live right in the town. And I always use the BOE downtown, and it was so convenient. And I thought it was a great location, very visible, very accessible. Yes, but I do appreciate you being flexible. I was pretty anxious about it because it's a very important part of our democratic process to have things be accessible and have people's voices be heard and have government listen to the people. After that, all I want to say in closing is the BOA must be accessible, as I've said, public facing, yes, make it very visible. Have a big sign out front. People have questions about voting. I hear about them a lot. They need to be really visible, and they can know they can get their questions answered because the staff over there is terrific and so knowledgeable and so helpful. It needs to be easily located even by pedestrians. What's easier than just when you're downtown anyway, think, oh, I've got a question for BOA, I think I'll walk over there and get my questions answered, pick up my absentee ballot, whatever. Keep up with changes. You know, people need clarification a lot of the time about the voting process. So main thing is to just facilitate the voting process and voter registration, not make it more difficult for people. Thank you.
Next up is Ravo Root.
Everybody, so my name is Ravo Root, and I'm an organizer with Citizen Action of New York. We go across the southern tier. So first, I think we do need to talk about this law that was going to be put in place of moving the BOE. New York law says that the Board of Elections cannot be removed from the city or village where it's located without a vote by the people. So there has been no referendum. There would have to be a referendum. So moving the BOE out of downtown Ithaca, our county seat, without voter approval would go against what the law requires. And this matters because people feel like decisions are being made behind closed doors, and I appreciate that the body has reconsidered. So thank you for not making those decisions behind closed doors. Over the last several years, we've seen what happens when voter access is taken for granted. We've seen national figures like President Trump try to cast doubt on our elections, spread misinformation, and make it harder for people to vote. That is not who we are in Tompkins County. We pride ourselves on making the ballot accessible, the process fair, and the Board of Elections easy to reach. This proposal would undermine that. Now imagine trying to do that at 31 Dutch Mill Road in Lansing. And I'm from Lansing, I've lived in Lansing the last couple years until recently. It could take an hour and a half by bus each way, plus a walk along Warren Road. And by the way, that also inhibits rural folks from doing the same thing, because not all rural folks have transportation. And I say that coming from Wyoming County as well. A lot of folks don't have cars still. That means there's no guarantee for the return trip for that mom of two working multiple jobs, and that is a real barrier for her. So this isn't just about square footage, it's about protecting public access to the very system that keeps our democracy functioning. And I wish that it hasn't taken this much pushback from folks. We see a full crowd here, but it did, unfortunately. The thing that I'm proud of, to say that I've lived here the last couple years, is that we're seeing a pivot and that you all are reconsidering. So thank you for doing that. I appreciate it.
The last blue card I have is for Stephanie. If there's anyone else that wanted to speak, now would be the time to go ahead and fill it and grab one of these in the back of the room and bring it up.
Hi, I'm here to talk about the Board of Elections. I use the Board of Elections website very frequently. That's how I found out that it was going to move, although shout out to League of Women Voters and Citizen Action, who I also heard about this from. So the website is super useful. I use it all the time, but I also pretty regularly go to the Board of Elections because the website is not enough in itself. Revote a little bit, stole what I was gonna say. The city of Ithaca, I live in the city, but it's not just a convenient location for those of us who live in the city. I actually was born in the town of Ithaca. I've also lived in the town of Ulysses. The city is the most convenient place for people who don't live in the city, who do not have cars. This is really important. Everyone doesn't have a car. I know that folks who have one sometimes forget, but I feel like it's most important to think of these folks, right? We don't want to put barriers to our democracy, especially in these times, right? So please, downtown Ithaca, thank you.
Okay, I want to thank all the speakers from the public that spoke tonight. Next, we're going to move to municipal officials' privilege of the floor. Robert Lynch, did you want to speak on behalf of the Town Board of Enfield?
I can talk about it briefly, and it's kind of a variation on a theme. But at our July 13th, I think it was July 9th Town Board meeting, we passed a resolution which all legislators should have been served account. And that resolution did urge that the Tompkins County Legislature give serious thought to alternative sightings for the Center of Government project. We resolved that the Enfield Town Board encourages the Tompkins County Legislature and Tompkins County Administration to consider seriously and thoughtfully various alternative siting locations for a Tompkins County Center of Government. Alternatives including, but not necessarily limited to, buildings made available at the Cornell Business Park. At the final community engagement meeting in June in this legislative chamber, legislator Mike Sigler had revealed that there had been consideration given by administration to available properties at the Cornell Business Park. It seemed very good, a very inviting facility. I've been up there. It feels good to walk the campus that is open, that is airy, that makes you feel good and makes you feel free. And it would be a good alternative location. It sounds like the economics would work. I hope they would, and I think they should be considered by the county. You know what? If you kept if you moved the Center of Government facilities up there, you could keep the Board of Elections right where it is, which is on Buffalo Street. And that would solve two problems with one decision. But that was the main thing that our town board has done. Other things are just normal housekeeping that we are going through, like revised subdivision regulations and things of that nature. But I thought you would like to know that we are thinking about county issues, we are thinking about the center of government, and we think we should think outside the box, and we should think creatively. Thank you. Any questions?
Any questions or comments for Mr. Lynch? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Next up is Pierre St. Perez from the City of Ithaca Common Council. Welcome, Pierre.
Hey, everyone. I guess just to continue the theme from From the perspective in the city of Ithaca, I want to say I am grateful that as someone who walks to the Board of Elections often, I'm grateful, and I can also convey that the mayor is grateful. I cannot speak for the rest of council. I assume so. That's just the one I've talked to about this. Now, about tomorrow's council meeting. We will be, at long last, and I'm thrilled to be able to report this, going over our 2021 audits. And the city is moving on to our 2022 audits. Now, this is great. This is us moving forward, and it is 1 year at a time, as we all know. If you are curious about the financial state of the city of Ithaca, I encourage you to watch our meeting tomorrow as the extensive report will be presented on. Additionally, I want to say that the city is absolutely thrilled to be coordinating with all of you at the county to address unhoused issues in our community. And I am very optimistic, and I believe the city is very optimistic about how we can move forward with that. Finally, we all hear about the potholes in Ithaca. We all do, and especially since there are people here, I just want to once again mention that if you encounter a pothole and are frustrated about the pothole, if you go to the City of Ithaca website and click Report a Concern, it brings up a little map of Ithaca where you can mark where the pothole is exactly, and that'll go directly to city staff and be put on the work plan. It's also a great system because it lets you see if a pothole has already been reported in that spot. So you can know whether we know about that pothole and have it on the agenda or not. Yeah. As I've looked at it, most of the reports are from the communities that I represent. And I'd like to encourage more people in our community.
Questions or comments for Pierre? Greg?
Yeah, Pierre, is there a way to mark all of Stewart Ave in this reporting system? Because I think it would just be so many submissions if we tried to do each one.
I encourage you to be specific about each specific. Look.
I encourage you to check with your highway department tomorrow.
Seriously, either we've talked about this before, but you either ask us to fix the whole of Stewart Avenue as a project or to patch it up. I have heard inconsistent requests from this body, and if you are truly that frustrated about Stewart Avenue, I'd love to know what specifically you'd like done about it, and not just please make it better.
I'd like a nice smooth road. But I just speak for one person, not the whole legislature. So please don't take that as the voice of the legislature. One thing I would ask you to bring back to your council, I know that your deputy city manager is also here with us tonight, but you heard a lot about access and how important access is to certain services. And I would encourage you to look at critical county access services that are provided and the cost of parking around those areas, and to see what the city could do to lighten the burden on maybe the single parent who has to drive down with their kids and figure out parking, or the senior citizen who may not have Park Mobile on their track phone, or somebody who just doesn't have the extra $1 or $2. So as we look at Board of Elections and other places in the city, I would encourage you all to take a look at what you're charging folks to park to get access to these oh so critical services that need to remain in the city of Ithaca.
Absolutely. I will note that as I understand it, and this is my understanding, this is not me speaking for the administration, but as I understand it, what we currently charge for parking is significantly less than the free market value of parking in Ithaca. Now, what that means from a certain perspective is arguably we're subsidizing parking. I understand that it's frustrating often to deal with paying for parking, to deal with parking in Ithaca. There is also a significant amount of spaces usually open in the parking garages. And while accessibility is critical and we should work towards furthering that, we are trying. And I think it's worth remembering that the city does make significant efforts towards this.
Randy.
Yeah, to build on that, actually, the whole architects just finished a parking study for this area. And we can get you a copy of that. What we found is that the most limiting area of parking is where we're going to build the center of government building. There's the fewest parking areas along the street. So I think that's what Greg was probably pushing to, is we're going to request parking spaces be assigned for people to come and visit the center of government building. So I also want to thank you for working with the county on the homeless problem. I think that a lot of progress has been made over the last 2 years, and I'm really glad the city is working with the county, and it's recognized by other people as well. But on potholes, is it just the roads owned by the city, or all roads in the city?
I believe the system is intended for city-owned roads.
Okay.
I mean, I imagine, and I've not cleared this with folks, but I imagine we could forward stuff to other road owners. However, if you're having issues on Cornell-owned roads, I suggest letting Cornell know. As to parking spots, I know the town of Ithaca's the little parking spots next to Town Hall have been very successful with their short time span to park. I imagine something similar could be set up. And, you know, when we're talking about accessibility, if bringing everything into the city of Ithaca is what it takes to really get the county government accessible to the people, I'm sure that we could have conversations to make that a reality.
Veronica.
Just on the report a problem, the see-click fix thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's also not just for roads and potholes. That's for city physical outdoor infrastructure in general.
Yes, it is for numerous things. You can report missed trash pickups. You can report various other concerns and problems. Is it mostly used because people are frustrated with the potholes? Yes. But it is a very varied service, and again, it's the best way to get something onto the city radar.
Any other questions or comments for Pierre? As usual, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, guys.
We have Mark Whitmer, the Town Supervisor of Town of Caroline. Mark, did you want to speak tonight? You're welcome to choose any open mic.
Hi, everybody. I'll just give a couple updates from Caroline, and then I wanted to speak as the chair of the EMS planning subcommittee of TCOG. So we are working on we got a state grant from the State Historic Parks Association a year ago for renovation of the town hall. So we're working with Barrow Architecture on that project. So we're getting to the point of sort of fine-tuning the design plans, and the plan is to develop bid documents this fall and then do the construction next year. That'll be most for exterior improvements to the building. That building is on the National Historic Register. And then the other thing that you're probably aware of, we're working with the town of Dryden on the broadband project for the 2 municipalities. That's keeping us busy, and that's still, we did engaged with a new engineering partner earlier in the year. So we're working very diligently to move that project along, and it has a due date of the end of the year next year. So that's coming along. I wanted to just comment on the last TCOG meeting where.
Excuse me, Mark, can you tell everyone what TCOG is, please?
Pardon me?
Can you tell what TCOG stands for, please?
Oh, sure. The Tompkins County Council of Governments, sorry for my acronym-ese, is a body of the supervisors from the towns and villages in Tompkins County. It's an advisory committee to the Tompkins County Legislature. And so a few years ago, we...
Nuclear annihilation warning.
Sorry.
Well, maybe we just don't need to be doing any of this. We can just all go home, bend over, and kiss our butts goodbye.
Go on, Mark.
We developed several subcommittees to work on different projects. So I'm chairing the EMS Planning Subcommittee. I think we've recognized for a long time that there are problems with covering the county equitably in responding to emergency services. And Irene Weiser, who is here tonight, worked on this with Dan Lamb and a group from Cornell several years ago and developed key research documents that illustrated this problem. We undertook to continue addressing this problem, and the main thing I wanted to say is that I appreciate and understand that the county legislature is fully supportive of that, and I really think this has been a team effort. We've made several proposals previously, and those have been supported by the legislature, and we've made tremendous improvements with the current rapid medical response program that's bolstering emergency response countywide. So this year, Mike Steitley and Joe Milliman principally developed a plan to that would enhance transport. The current service does not provide transport. It's first response to stabilize and evaluate the situation. And it has incidentally decreased average response times countywide by about 50%. So that's been really good. But Joe and Mike developed a plan for how we could bolster ambulance service, transport service countywide, and the committee wanted to put that before the TCOG group and for consideration of making a recommendation to the legislature during budget deliberations for consideration of funding some kind of project in the 2026 budget. So that's a long-winded sort of explanation of how we got to that point. And we had a belabored discussion about it during the meeting. I know that the legislature is waiting for a report from a consultant, but we felt it was important for the legislature to get the recommendation from TCOG for their deliberations and cogitation during budget season. So I want to thank you for your engagement, and that's really all I had to say.
Questions or comments for Mark? Randy.
Yes, the post office that you guys took over, your office is over here at the post office now, town of Ithaca?
Mark is town of Caroline.
That's something else.
Oh, it's town of Caroline. Okay,
yeah.
A lot going on.
Yeah, I'm town of Caroline. Sorry.
Right, thank you. That was my only question. So.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Thank you for coming.
Great.
Much appreciated.
Thank you, everyone.
We're moving on to legislator privilege of the floor. Are there any legislators that would like to speak? Mike Sigler.
Yeah, I was going to wait till the actual discussion on this, but I would rather speak now because people then leave, and I don't want them to leave. I didn't want the people here talking about the Board of Elections to think, I wanted to explain some of the reasoning behind the initial thoughts here. And one of them was to have the machines in the same place as the Board of Elections so that, you know, training would be easier and that there was space to do training. And simply we couldn't find any place at the time in the city that did that. It wasn't for lack of looking. It was the administration was considering all options. We needed a loading dock. We needed space to train. I don't never really like when people say that something is illegal as if our administrator and our county attorney didn't actually consider that. This was covered. You know, I think it's interesting that all this came together now. Listen, I know people don't hear about stuff anymore. We don't have newspaper except for local, which does a great job, and for online, which also does a great job. But I understand media is fractured right now, so people don't hear about everything. But to move the Board of Elections temporarily would be legal. That was covered by the committee. So I just am never, I'm never keen when people say that this is illegal, as if, you know, if anything is done, it is not done with nefarious purposes. I've never found this body to act in that kind of manner. So that's about it for that. I'm very glad that this has come forward and I want to give a lot of credit to our Board of Elections. Steve DeWitt, I saw him here and he suggested this and other people were, you know, on board with it. And I thought that was great. I thought that the administration was very open to change. And I think that shows that Tompkins County is rather nimble when it comes to situations like this. As for the buying of the Dutch Mill property, someone had suggested it's an industrial plaza. I just want to bring up again that we do not have natural gas in Lansing, and we are the only township in the state of New York that does not have access to natural gas. It is very unlikely that that will be developed into any kind of industry without that. It is very difficult to run a clean room, which Micron affiliates will need, unless they already have natural gas supply. And if they already have supply there, they cannot expand upon that supply. That is one of the rules under the moratorium. So as for the mall, I'm thinking maybe the county should just buy the mall. And that way we can just start putting everything up at the mall, because that seems to be what people want. So maybe we should consider that in the future. So thanks.
Veronica.
Yeah, 3 quick responses to some things people said during public comment, not about the Board of Elections in Dutch Mill, because we'll get there. One, thanks to Diana for mentioning the importance of having a tenant on a board. I forget that sometimes, but I think anybody that represents a lot of homeowners and a lot of tenants should have some homeowners and some tenants, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think I'm the only tenant on this board.
No.
I think, no? Okay. You two? Amazing, 1 of 2. And I think there's gonna be another next year as well. What was the second? To, I think, Andrea, who I think left, talking about access in general, just thank you for the reminder that any particular form of access, virtual, physical, whatever, is not going to work for everyone. And that matters. And of course, the flip side, you can always probably find a person who, like, no matter what you do, you might not have a service accessible to literally every last person that exists in the county that you can think of, but we can try. And I think it's easy to forget because there's a lot of, like, I guess to use to make up an intentionally extreme example, someone says your treehouse is not wheelchair accessible, and you're like, well, it doesn't matter. No one in a wheelchair ever comes to my treehouse. Okay, why do you think they don't come to the treehouse? It's like the inaccessibility blocks awareness of people for whom your thing is inaccessible. And then finally, I do think that lots of things are for public protest, lots of forms are completely acceptable. They shouldn't go beyond the severity of the thing that is, I don't know what that is, the things being protested, but a permeable roadblock is not a serious threat to public safety, in my personal opinion.
Any other legislators for legislative privilege of the floor? Deborah.
Yeah, I want to congratulate the Village of Lansing, which just got its first level of climate smart community certification, which most of you probably don't realize is very difficult to do for a very small municipality that has a staff of 5. So yay, Village of Lansing. Thank you to my husband, the mayor, Ronnie Hardaway, and his board of trustees.
Mike Lane.
Thank you. So many things to comment on. I've got my Ukraine pin on tonight, and we know we didn't end the Ukraine war on day one, on January 21st. And those people have been put in daily harm's way from drones because we held back our European allies and ourselves from sending them the arms they need to defend themselves. So that's one thing I just wanted to bring everybody's attention to, because it's important that we continue to support Ukraine. What's happening at the federal level? Well, this week we fired the head of the Fair Labor Standards Board because she was rigging the unemployment figures to make our president look bad. Well, I'm sure he'll appoint somebody who will rig the figures to make him look good, because that's what happens. If you don't like something, you say it's false, it's bad news, fake news, or whatever. One more thing that our country is not about that's happening. But I'm going to switch over, and for the last thing I want to talk about is New York State. And that is Governor Hochul's recent announcement that we need to start looking at nuclear power again in New York. We still have no place to properly dispose of nuclear waste. The Nevada site that was supposed to have been set up many years ago, the people out there didn't want it, and so that didn't happen. So what do we do with our spent fuel rods now? They bury them on site. They seal them in concrete, and they put them at the location of the power plants. I think we put ourselves into a bad position. I remember when the moratorium on the natural gas came that Mike Sigler just mentioned, because there was not the ability of NYSEG to get natural gas to the area in the airport. We had a group of legislators and business people and environmental people, including people from Cornell, scientists. And the report that came out on that talked about that probably natural gas had to be a transition fuel as we made our way into the need for being able to power everything electrically, which we didn't have the infrastructure for. But those that felt very strongly that because of climate change, which does exist, no question about it, we had to immediately or as fast as possible stop using any fossil fuels. Well, we have had resolutions. We've done that here in Tompkins County. And it was done at the state level, too. It said, what by 2035? Can't remember what year it was. We were supposed to be done with all fossil fuels at the state level. In my view, nukes are worse. I can still remember when they were planning to put a nuclear power plant on Lake Cayuga. And I can certainly imagine again, as they look for sites, that that one might come on the radar because we've closed down the coal-powered plant, and you still have all that infrastructure going to the old plant. And I sure as heck hope that New York State doesn't say, well, that might be a good place to put one of these new, I forgot the terminology for that, different kind of nuclear plants, but they're still nukes. I hope we never see that on Cayuga Lake, and I hope we don't have to turn to nuclear power, because in the time it's going to take us to get more solar, more wind, more water power, which is what we really need to have. Thank you.
Any other legislators for privilege of the floor? Okay, thank you, everybody.
Mike?
Oh.
I was just going to say that it's called an SMR. It's a small modular reactor. It can generate about 50 megawatts. You can actually link them together, so if you needed to generate more power, you could do this. As for the waste, France has been recycling nuclear waste for quite a while now. The nuclear power of 50 years ago isn't really where we are today. I mean, we had maybe poor control systems 50 years ago, but today the control systems, obviously the Dragon is a lot different than Apollo. We've come a long way with that. And the waste that we are seeing today is nowhere near the waste that we had just 50 years ago. Not saying that the Cayuga site would be the best site selected. They are looking at, there are 2 open slots up in Oswego, which is where they're thinking about power. Let me just give you, though, one little tidbit there. Micron is a power suck that will suck power from 5 separate counties. Your electricity rates will go through the roof. Micron is an energy hog. It's wonderful that it's bringing so many jobs to Syracuse and Central New York. I don't think that those jobs will have a huge impact here in Tompkins County, but they certainly will have an impact on your electricity rates. So I'm hoping that Governor Hochul will at least start looking at that. This government has decided to outstate its electricity production to Pennsylvania and to Canada if they can bring that power down from the hydro. But even in this Tompkins County, when we had the opportunity to bring about 5 megawatts, I believe, of power on from hydro, that was rejected by the city of Ithaca back in 1970. So when it comes to green power, we have not actually been that open to hydro, as you say, and wind, as we know, failed in this county. And industrial scale solar may be coming, but it's certainly at the price of a lot of not just prime farmland, but active farmland that goes to our local dairies. So yeah, there's a lot of issues there. Yes, Deborah.
Deborah.
Yeah, on a completely different note, in case y'all haven't checked your email, Shauna just shared this with us from NISAC. Apparently, all the New York counties are now off the sanctuary city list, or the bad Santa Claus list. I guess because the entire state is on the list, but we're off the hook, so yay.
Okay, thank you, everyone.
The city of Ithaca is not on the list either, but yes, the whole state is.
Thank you, everybody. I'm going to keep moving on the agenda. I do not have a chair's report tonight, so we are up to reports from some of our staff. We'll start with Corsa Akumfi, the county administrator.
I have just a very quick one. The RFP for the minimum wage study closed. We received 3 bids. So I will be reaching out with email to get a team together to review those bids and move from there. So that's what I want to update you on. Other pieces that we've been working on this week and for the last few weeks are in the folder, so yes.
Thank you. Questions or comments for the county administrator? Of course, I didn't quite hear you. How many bids did we receive? Three. Okay. Thank you. All right. Next up, Maury Josephson, County Attorney.
Also very limited. First, there was the item that Shauna reported. I was going to give a couple of federal updates. The second, apropos to debate at the last legislature meeting, the Department of Justice has put out a detailed memorandum concerning its views on diversity, equity, and inclusion policies. It is at least more reasoned than what we've seen previously. If anybody's interested in reading that, I'd be happy to circulate it. Otherwise, we've just been continuing at a rapid clip to assist with the many projects and breaking things that we have going on.
Questions or comments from Maury? Deborah?
Yeah, I would love to see it. I live for Pam Bondi's announcements.
Okay, thank you, Maury. Are there any resolutions to be added to or withdrawn from the agenda? Greg?
Yes, I'd like to add Resolution L, ID 13437, scheduling a public hearing for the 2025 New York State Community Development Block Grant assistance.
Is there any discussion on adding Resolution L? Okay, we're going to need 10 vote. Oh, we need a second. Yep. Shauna seconds. Thanks. Thank you. Any discussion? Okay, we need 10 votes to add it to the agenda. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, we're up to the consent agenda. The consent agenda are resolutions and appointments to be voted on as a group unless any member of the legislature requests that a resolution or appointment be instead included separately and individually as part of the business of standing or special committees. For appointments, we have this page. Thank you. Thank you. From the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee to the Workforce, Diversity, and Inclusion Advisory Committee, Samantha Almendinger, County Staff. From the Health and Human Services Committee to the Community Mental Health Services Board, Substance Use Subcommittee, Nicole Zulu, Community Mental Health Services Board Representative. And to the Youth Services Board, Kyle Erickson, Town of Caroline Representative. Resolution A.
Go.
Resolution A has been pulled. Resolution B. Pull. Resolution B has been pulled. Resolution C.
Pull.
Resolution C has been pulled. Resolution D, audit of final payments, Seneca Stone Corporation, Rehabilitate Taxiway A, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID 13415. Resolution E, authorizing a renewal of a memorandum of agreement, MOA, with the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA, to operate and maintain multiple navigational aid facilities, Ithaca Tompkins International Airport, ID number 13430. From the Housing and Economic Development Committee, Resolution F, budget adjustment, Tompkins County Workforce Development, New York Systems Change and Inclusive Opportunities Network, Office of Mental Health, NYSCION-OMH, ID number 13373. Is there somebody that would move the consent agenda? Deborah moves and seconds. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, as previously announced and accepted by the legislators, we are going to change around the order now. We're going to go to Resolution J next. You're on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Purposes of further discussion and hopefully action, I'm going to offer Resolution J, authorizing acquisition of property at 31 Dutch Mill Road for temporary relocation of county departments during Center of Government project.
Just to be clear, are we moving what's in the packet or something, or the red folder?
I'm moving what's in the packet, expecting that there'll be a substitution.
Very good. Is there a second? Randy seconds. Lee, did you want to speak to it first?
Just briefly to kind of lay a little bit of groundwork, and essentially it is what the title of this resolution suggests, acquisition of property for temporary relocation. And I think the question before us is the purchase of the available property useful for the immediate needs of county government as they move forward after multiple resolutions on the Center of Government project, and will it provide for us significant cost savings during that project? I believe the answer is yes. Just quick aside, I served as county elections commissioner for 8 to 9 years, I guess it was, in the early and mid 90s. And I understand a lot of the concerns that were brought forward tonight. And I'll tell you, back in those days, that was before we had early voting. It was before we had county ownership of voting machines. It was before you had computerized voting machines. It was before we had printers that were located in the polling places. It was before the extensive level of training that now exists today. And
what century was this?
Yeah, the previous century, Deborah. And so I drove into the Board of Elections every day, or most work days, for several years, and struggled to find a parking spot for much of that time. And I can remember when we had to commandeer gadabout buses to go out and round up our election inspectors to bring them in for the training because of the difficulties downtown. So whatever the resolution is tonight, I'm hoping that we take a good look at the many extensive operations that now exist at the Board of Elections and see that they're suitably placed back together in a long-term manner. But it's here for the discussion tonight, and so moved.
Very good, thank you. Greg.
I'd like to move an amendment as presented in the red folder. I can highlight what those amendments are for the record.
Please do.
In the fourth whereas, it would say identify suitable space to temporarily house. Then I would strike the Tompkins County Department of Assessment and Board of Elections and replace that with county departments at 31 Dutch Mill Road in the town of Lansing during the estimated 4 to 5 year duration of insert Center of Government project. Moving down to the third resolved from the end, it would read, resolved further that the Tompkins County Board of Elections will not be one of the county departments considered for relocation to 31 Dutch Mill Road. And it's the expressed intent of the legislature to keep the Board of Elections primary location within the city of Ithaca. Voting machines may continue to be stored outside of the city of Ithaca. It would continue to an additional resolve clause that says resolved further that the Tompkins County Legislature shall vote on the placement of departments at 31 Dutch Mill Road.
So that's been moved as an amendment. Deborah seconds. Further discussion. Shauna.
Yeah, I'll speak to the amendment quickly. So I'm not going to support the amendment. I have a problem with the resolution, but also the amendment. I feel like we have really not garnered a whole lot of feedback as far as moving departments. And I think that this resolution, specifically this amendment, makes it very vague. I think it's hard whenever we talk about buying buildings at the tune of $1.2 million. It's our obligation to be very upfront about what departments we're putting in that building. Some of the behind the scenes conversation is that we're gonna put 2 very forward facing departments into that space. And I mean, we heard from a lot of people here today, many of them were talking about Board of Elections. And, you know, I personally have a problem with us being vague in this resolution. I equally have a problem with us putting our county departments so far out on, off of Warren Road. It's way past the airport, down a dead end. And I mean, we're county government, and we have the center of government here in the city of Ithaca because it's, you know, for the most part, it's central to where we all live. And to have people have to go there is really going to be out of the way for many of our constituents, not to mention the fact that the bus route does not cater to that area. So I won't support the amendment, but I really won't support the resolution.
Randy.
I'm not surprised we're here. This project's been going on for 8, 10 years, 20 years, Mike. And departments have very strong feelings about where they think they belong. I feel that the Center of Government building is not a strategic plan. I think it's a plan for our departments. We've gathered that from our parking study that this really isn't a building being built for the people. It's being built for our employees, which need better space. There's no doubt about that. They have inadequate space now. Only 21 people, and that includes the Board of Elections, will be visiting this place each day. Very small number of people actually are visiting us, and they're already visiting us. So we're not really enhancing their visits in any way. They're already going to these places. We decided we're putting the building here. And we have to do certain things. I don't doubt that whatsoever. I just don't feel this is real strategic. I think that it's, we have a necessary need for space. We had a long discussion this morning about the 3 buildings that need to be deconstructed. And by policy, we need to deconstruct those buildings. And the process that's going to take to deconstruct the 3 buildings that we're going to be taking down. And it's going to be a lengthy process because our goal is to recycle as much as we can, to not go to the landfill, and we're going to track it all. And it's going to be easier for the contractor to do this and to be efficient about it if he's got more time to do it. They have more time to do it. For me, I think about what's the value of this building out 2 miles off of Warren Road. And I am thinking about what's the long-term goal. And I think about the cost. And I think the leasing a place would probably be similar to what it would be for 5 years, what it would be to buy this building. It's going to be very expensive to lease space. This is 13,000 square feet. If it's $20 a square foot, that's going to be, you know, $200-some thousand a year. Over 5 years, it's going to be about the purchase price of this particular property. And then if we don't need it at that point, we could sell it, and it would be less of a cost. So on the financial side, it doesn't really concern me as much about just, you know, where it is. I also think about that this next legislature is going to be tasked with rebuilding or building a new public safety building. And we're going to need swing space for that. And that Dutch Mill doesn't seem like a bad spot for that, for some of that need. It's right down the street. And there's no doubt the next legislature is going to have to deal with the public safety in jail because it's not adequate today. So I think that's not a bad thing. I just feel that we haven't looked at strategy of where really, what does Board of Elections belong? Where do these front-facing departments belong? And how are they really going to be more accessible to people? And I don't think we've reached that at all. I represent Newfield and Enfield, and I have not one person that I've spoken to likes to come down to Ithaca. They just don't like it for whatever reason. Parking is one of the issues. It's the bumpy roads. Is another one, and parking's another one. So I mean, for me, as I represent people, they voted for me, and they're just not excited. Enfield passed a resolution. The full board unanimously said, you know, hey, this is no value to us, and that's the same way it feels for people in Newfield. They just don't see the value of this. So and I'm not sure I'm going to vote for this resolution. And Susan Curry, who I care for very much, I think the library is so underutilized. It's a key spot. It's on a major bus line. And it's underutilized. It's 72,000 square feet. And we're just not thinking about what's the best way for people to have access to what we want them to have access to. And so that's where I'm struggling, and I'm not sure where I'm voting.
Next, but I just want to remind everyone, we are discussing the amendment that's in the red folder, the amendment to the resolution that was in the packet, which was to make several changes that are highlighted in yellow. Deborah.
Yeah, thank you, Dan. I will vote for this amendment. I will vote for this resolution. We've been talking about this center of government since I started on the legislature in 2018. If we're going to do this, we're going to need swing space. And my understanding is that we've looked hard for swing space in the city. For various reasons, it's either not affordable or people don't want to lease to us because they want retail and rental, or the spaces that are available, say at the mall, are much larger than what we need, and we're going to have to pay more for more space than we need, which doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense. But we need this swing space, and we need it soon. I was fortunate to be able to visit this building. It's a really nice building. If it was downtown, it would cost twice at least what we're proposing to pay for it. I think that this resolution, in terms of the go-ahead to purchase the building, is time sensitive. So while I appreciate people's concern about it being somewhat vague about who we're going to move out there, the fact is that we are not going to move the Board of Elections out there, which is our most forward-facing visited department. And we still have to figure out who we are going to move out there, but we will do that in another open discussion, and people will have time to weigh in. So I don't have a problem voting for this in the form in which it's been presented as an amendment. Thank you.
Mike Lane.
On the amendment, I will vote for the amendment because of the insertion of the word temporarily, which I think is so important. Now, I'm not a fool about what a temporary building can be. It can be nearly permanent, and we saw that with the old library after we moved out of the old library to the location where it is now. But we had the old building, and some of us wanted to see that possibly used for the center of government, to that location. But it turned out they needed some office space. And what, eight years, I think, it lasted over there before the roof was leaking, and so many things were too expensive to keep going, and we had to add some space over at the Human Services building. It's important that this be understood to be temporary. I think Randy's point about the public safety building is a good one, because that needs to be addressed, and the next legislature is going to have to address that. We debated whether that should go forward before the center of government building. The legislature decided no, it was going to be the center of government building first. So that's where we are, and that's why I support the revised version.
Greg.
Yeah, the intent in leaving this vague, or I don't necessarily know if it's vague, because it explicitly states that we're going to vote on the placement, so county administration can't really do anything without legislative approval, which makes the public process sort of open to all to participate, because there'll have to be a resolution, there'll have to be something that we talk about in an open session, and there'll be opportunity for feedback, just like it was with the Board of Elections being listed in this resolution today. We got feedback, we made an adjustment, and here we are. you know, I think this idea of it being like all the way out there past Warren Road, like 2 miles, not everything can fit in the center, in the seat of the county, right? I think health services, which are most essential, should probably be in the center of the county. Maybe our corrections facility should be in the center of our county so that loved ones can visit those that are experiencing the highest degree of crisis in any period of time. We have our whole health department in a industrial park right off of Warren Road. We have our DEWR, Department of Emergency Response, in an industrial park right off of Warren Road. We have our corrections facility and our sheriff's department right off of Warren Road. So it looks like we're creating these little sort of what I'll call county nodes. We're clustering, right? We have this Warren Road corridor of county facilities, and we have a downtown campus. Other than that, I'm not really sure where else to, besides the highway department, which let's keep them out there.
Hey, that's the best district.
That is the best district, and you can keep them. So I think that we're also a funder of TCAT, which we're going to have a great debate about here shortly. And if we make these a priority, and we already have service coming to certain parts of that area, what's one more stop? I know it may seem like the most impossible mountain to move, but we do have the almighty purse in our hands. And I think that we can.
Which is close to empty, Greg.
No, but I'm saying if we wanted to make access a priority, we could make access a priority, right? There's things that we could do. And so I think the temporary nature of this and the need for this, this didn't come out of left field. We had a resolution we passed several meetings ago that talked about the need to find a space for the Board of Elections. I personally think the cost per square foot to put storage of machines in the city of Ithaca is a little prohibitive and not the best use of taxpayer funds. But I can tell you I'm committed to trying to find a way to make sure that the Board of Elections has the most robust space possible to best serve our community. And so the community's been heard, and the reason why this is vague is so that we can come back after and have a conversation about the departments that could potentially go here. And yes, they are forward-facing, and I guess the last thing I would ask is I'm dying to ask the question, and I know I'll probably get some pushback for it, but I'm dying to know how many people drove here tonight, and how many people took public transit, and then how many people walked here. And I'd love to know what that mix was, because I think we often say these things about walking and accessibility, but we all got in our cars and drove here anyways. And so I think the majority of us would probably have taken a vehicle here if I had to guess. But I can't ask for a show of hands. So anyways, here we are.
I walked here.
You live in the city.
District 4, man. Center of government, District 4.
I left this morning and walked here.
Yeah. And
I started yesterday.
I applaud you for it. I am not going to support the resolution or the amendment this evening. I just feel uncomfortable. I understand that the need to move, and I don't want to hold up this process unduly. But I feel uncomfortable voting for a resolution where we're not telling the public why we're really buying the property, what we're going to use it for. I think if we waited 2 weeks and we clearly made the public aware, these are the departments we're going to put there, I would feel a lot more comfortable, and I would probably support the resolution, but I will not this evening. Thanks.
Travis.
I'm going to support the amendment. I'm probably not going to support the resolution when we vote on it. I do agree with Rich and others. I want to know when we decide to buy this, I want to know what we're buying it for. If there are forward-facing departments that would go out there and we're talking about accessibility issues, it doesn't make any sense to me. So I want to know what departments are going to go out there, where COFA is going to go, where Board of Elections is going to go, where assessment is going to go, where every department is going to go when we do this swing, before I agree to spend $1.2 million. Like, I need the information before I make that vote. But I'd rather vote on a resolution that keeps Board of Elections downtown.
Ann?
Yeah, before we decide on what departments are going to go at Dutch Mill if we buy the property, I think some data that we need to see is the data from Holt, which we talked about this morning at the Downtown Facilities Committee. So we asked them many months ago to do a survey at each department to see how many visitors they get per day. And so there's additional information. But one of the pieces of information, too, is how they get there. What's their mode of transportation? So I think that's critical for us all to see sooner rather than later. Thank you.
I don't have anyone else on the list. Did anybody else want to talk? Lee?
More a question. I hate to put administration on the spot, but what are the considerations with Building C? You're in the process of moving IT to the third floor of the old jail building, following the relocation of administration and HR over to mental health. For you to move forward with work in this complex, what's your timeline for making decisions for assessment and Board of Elections in particular? Is there a time component involved here that makes this resolution urgent?
I'll say yes. We do have a purchase agreement in place. The sellers are looking up to you to approve for us to move forward before we agree, before they commit to it. If the resolution doesn't pass this day, potentially we are going to lose it. Also, based on the conversation with Ariel, there's a bit of time crunch in terms of getting the contractors in to stay on course based on the project plan. The other thing I also want to indicate is that we have to listen to our departments. They know their client, they know how they get to them, they know what services they access, and also allow them to have a significant input in the process that's moving forward. Everything that we're doing, our department is center of it. They are giving us the information and the data, and also understand the people that they see and how they see them. And getting that input from the department to guide our decision making is also significant. And I think with our project planning and everything else, we believe that for us to stay on course for the September beginning deconstruction of the 3 buildings, we need to be able to get moving on the relocation of those 3 departments in there right now. So our anticipation is before IT fully moves, the 2 departments need to move first so that IT can move their server. Because if IT moves the server today, they will be blacked out. So assessment and Board of Elections need to move before IT can disconnect the server from that site.
Shauna?
I'm a little confused. You just said there was a purchase agreement in place. Is that what you meant to say?
No.
There's an offer.
There is an offer that has been accepted before we are moving. So this will give us an approval for us to complete the purchasing. So we don't have it yet. This resolution empowers us to be able to move forward and sign up the agreement of purchasing.
Okay.
No money has been put down by the county, is that correct?
No.
Randy?
Yeah, to Lee's comment, we talked a lot about the timing of deconstructing and moving people out. We talked about any needs for asbestos removal and any contamination. And it turns out Annex C does have asbestos in its stucco. So that whole building is going to have to be cordoned off and tented and the whole bit. And their thought was to have all the deconstruction done, I think by the middle of the second quarter of 2026. and they wanted to start that process October, November. So that was just the timing we have right now.
Okay, we are discussing the amendment. Ann?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what was just said about timing and some of the departments. Well, I think most of all the departments we've been talking to about potentially moving in the next couple of months. There is a time crunch related to the deconstruction, but also elections and busy times for some departments. So that's why I'll be voting for this tonight, because the longer we wait to close, then it's just snowballs. And, so for example, if the Board of Elections couldn't move, we're not going to have them be moving close to election time. That we can't do that to them. And again, we're working on this with all the other departments too that we're considering, and we're taking this feedback from the departments and trying to figure out, this. And we've been working on this for a long time, but so we're not getting it always perfect. So it's good to have feedback, but we need to be nimble. But anyway, there is a time crunch.
Okay, ready to vote on the amendment? Should we do a roll call on this one or no? Please.
Shauna Black. No. Travis Brooks.
Yes.
Randy Brown.
No.
Amanda Champion.
Yes.
Deborah Dawson.
Yes.
Rich John.
Yes.
Ann Corman.
Yes.
Mike Lane.
Yes.
Greg Mezzi.
Yes.
Dan Nolan.
Yes.
Veronica Pillar.
Yes.
Lee Shurtleff.
Yes.
Mike Sigler.
Yes.
Dan Klein.
Yes. Okay, so that passed 12-2, so that is now the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? Amanda?
I appreciate everyone's conversation, and I just want to say to all of us, but to people who spoke, I agree with Mike Sigler that there's nothing nefarious going on. Like, nobody was trying to hide this or disenfranchise voters, or, I get it that we're all so sensitive to that, and we want accessibility, and if it looks like something isn't going the right way, then people can get upset. But that's not what's happening here. There has been a lot of discussion in the past week. I personally did feel like this particular purchase came out of left field. I didn't know that this building was being considered. But my understanding is that lots of other places have been considered. The Board of Elections commissioners have themselves been looking desperately to find a place. This is not just some, random thing that's happening. People are working on this. And over the long haul and the big picture, we've all been talking about this for years and years and years. And I'll just say something I said, a couple months ago. I think if this legislature, if we don't move forward in the next couple of months, this project is not going to happen, because you're going to get 8 or 9 new people, whatever it is, and they don't know what's going on, and they don't know the inside conversations that we've been having, and they don't know all the things that have been considered. I think last thing I would just say is that there's no perfect answer. There's somebody is not going to be happy, or somebody is going to feel like it's not accessible, or somebody is going to be upset, and that's not good, but it's inevitable. Like, at the moment, we're moving forward with this project downtown right here. We need to keep moving forward with that unless there is a very serious reason that we shouldn't. And we have to move the departments around. That's just how it is right now. So I think, as Deborah said, this is relatively cheap building, and if it comes with a lot of stuff, and it comes with
lots of good stuff.
Lots of furniture, and if it's an easy, my understanding is that it's an easy transition for our IT department to get the servers up and running, you know, it will be an inconvenience for whoever has to work up there for a couple of years. But, you know, other departments are inconvenienced in other ways. Administration had to move over here. That's an inconvenience. There's a lot of inconveniences. Nothing is perfect. So, thanks.
Mike Lane.
What I'm concerned about is there's a lot of things in play with this, not only this building, but other things we're talking about, the shelters and things like that we're dealing with. And we have a facilities department, and I don't know how these things are going to impact the ability of our facilities department to maintain these various new buildings, for example. Are we going to have to start adding more staff to do custodial work? Are we going to have to contract with custodial work? And naturally, there's going to be more maintenance work, repairs, and other kinds of things. So I'd sort of like to hear a little bit about what kind of capacity we have for these things that might be coming online. And I see Arel's there. I know we just lost Corsa, but Arel, have you got any comment on this?
Yes, and I've already started having those types of conversations with Corsa and county administration. So, I mean, for the immediate needs as far as this Dutch Mill Road property, basically we're substituting Building C for that property. So we will be able to at least take care of the cleaning and maintenance. But obviously, as we add the center of government in 4 years' time, that we're bringing in additional departments. So we will need to ramp up by then to have staffing to cover the maintenance needs as well as some of the cleaning needs of that building. But yes, those are conversations that I've already started having with county administration to prepare in 4 years' time to be able to have that capacity in-house.
Corsa or Arel, do we anticipate having to ask for additional staff for facilities due to any of these things that we're projecting going forward?
Arel?
So as far as currently, as I said, for the Dutch Mill Road property, no. Okay. We will not have to add additional staff. But yeah, going forward, when we get into the center of government, yes. In 4 years' time, we will have to. I realize
that, but I meant we've also got some of the shelter properties and things like that.
The shelter properties, as far as the cleaning, the way we handled that last year, those are part of the operating costs for the Code Blue shelter. So that was contracted to do the cleaning, and we handled the maintenance. And so we will be able to handle the maintenance, at least for the Code Blue, for this coming season.
All right. Well, thank you for that response.
Travis.
So I know I've only been here for 3.5 years, so I haven't been talking about this for the last 10, 20 years. And I never felt like it should be downtown, especially in that location, because of parking and accessibility and other issues. There have been other properties that folks who have served much longer than I have could have purchased over the years and built this a long time ago with a much smaller price tag. And I'm not going to vote to buy this building. I'm probably never going to vote for anything that leads us to building the center of government over here. And there's a lot of us that will be serving next year that are going to be looking at people's assessments and hearing their complaints and issues. They're going to be looking at taxes going up in the county and the city and the school district. Me and Mike and others were just talking about people buying flood insurance and being smacked with a bill between $1,500 and $6,000, $7,000 that's due immediately. There's a lot of anxiety for folks and what they have to put out. And people are saying, oh, it only will cost $50 million. Only $50 million. How do we know that it's only going to be $50 million we've done projects, other folks have done projects that started off at $1 million, $2 million, that ended up costing $6, $7 million because we don't know about materials and labor over the next few years. So I'm not gonna vote to spend $1.2 million on this property, especially not knowing who's moving there and what that looks like. And I understand the urgency to get this done now for some people, but I don't feel that urgency. So I'm not gonna vote for this.
Dan Nolan.
Hey, so the way I kind of look at this resolution is that it's an act, it allows the flexibility for the government to be able to do what it needs. I think it's our responsibility to allow our public administrators the ability to do what they need to do in order to best serve the public. I think that removing the BOE from it made a lot of sense, obviously, from the equation. And given that, and that we know that we're not going to put a highly public-facing agency out there, I don't necessarily see the issue with expanding the footprint of the county, even if temporarily, especially given that it's a decent price for the building, and from what we hear, that it's a good building. Having that asset on our books doesn't seem like a bad thing, at least in the near term. So I'll be supporting it. Thanks.
Okay, I've got Veronica, then Randy. Maybe we can have a vote after that. Veronica.
I'm still conflicted on this resolution after all this, although I'm glad that it's the amended version now. Just a couple of things. One, I agree with what Amanda said, that none of this was nefarious, and also impact matters more than intent. So even though no one intended to be secretive or disenfranchise anyone, if it caught the public like that and was going to have that effect, I'm very glad and very grateful that so many people spoke up and explained the various ways in which having the Board of Elections out on Dutch Mill Road would be problematic. So thank you. I appreciated, Randy, your point about this could be swing space for the public safety building project in the future is a good point. I mean, obviously we'd have to think about that more, but that makes me more positive toward this building. I'm not actually worried about the cost because of, well, the comparison to renting, and also just someone correct me if I'm wrong, but very briefly for the public, our finances about capital projects, buying and selling buildings and borrowing money to purchase them and such, are somewhat separate from our operating budget, which is where you heard that we have an $11 million shortfall maybe, and which is where all the property taxes go. So the spending the 1.2 million is not going to be raising the tax levy by 1.2 million. That is not like that. If we were renting, then it would. I appreciate that the resolution says that, you know, the legislature will vote on the placement of departments at 31 Dutch Mill Road. What I'd like to see is, one, I'd like to see that the plan, like an announcement of what departments are going there well in advance of the vote, like at least when the meeting agenda goes out. I know that's the default, but sometimes we have like emergency resolution provided in advance of meeting situations. I don't want to see that. I would also feel a lot better if, and let me preface, I'm not putting anyone on the spot right now, but I would feel better if when the time comes, the heads of the departments, any departments that'll be affected, can be here in the meeting and talk about what this means for them and say, yes, they're on board, which means we got to sort that out ahead of time. I know most department heads report to Corsa, so in theory, he could just say, yes, everyone's on board, but I'd rather hear it from a group. And of course, if it involves other electeds or something, then that is a different thing. That's all I got to say.
I'm just going to jump in and say that, Veronica, that is my goal too. If we pass this tonight, that next week we announce to the public what departments we're planning on putting in, and it's a week before the vote on it. So that's my personal goal also. Randy.
Yeah, I think the economics of this makes sense, but I have a few questions. So where would this money come from? This has come out of the capital $9,000 we had set aside for the project?
Yes.
Okay.
So,
I hope it's more than 9,000.
$9 million.
I'm sorry, $9 million, I'm sorry, thank you. Yes.
yes, this will come from the capital, and then if eventually we move into the central government and we decide to lay this off, the funds will just go back to the capital.
Okay, and my second question is, we're currently storing voting machines on Henshaw Road. When is that lease up?
I believe end of this year.
Okay, and so we need to find space or release that?
Yes.
Okay, so would be the plan to temporarily put the machines in this building? Isn't it $50,000 a year we're paying now?
We are looking at the logistics of how to move forward with that. So
Would that be a logical thing to do?
It depends on who will be, what other department we are fitting in here, and what is the size of the space that will be left, and if that can accommodate the machines. So we have had multiple meetings even today looking at rationalizing the space and making sure we are able to fit right size, what unit, what department, what tools or equipment will fit in. And our hope is to be able to bring you a bit more comprehensive resolution next week on every pieces of this building and what is going there, who is going there, and things like that. And also including, we need to make sure the lease owners at Henshaw are aware if you're going to renew the lease or not. So we intend making that part of the decision included in this process, so that we will know where we're going with that.
Thank you.
Shauna.
Yeah, I mean, I guess my question is, what's the big secret in keeping the departments that we've all been notified we're thinking of moving? Why are we keeping it a big secret?
I don't think there's any secrecy in that. We have had various conversations with various departments. I will say this right from the top end, that there are departments that volunteered to go in there, but their current spaces may not be feasible for other departments to go into that space. So we are looking holistically at the logistics of it. So even though I have mentioned to many of you some of the department we are considering, at the moment everything is not cast in stone yet in terms of the feasibility of it, because we are evaluating other options, including the machine placement, and we want to be able to do that at least this week, and then send out the detailed information as to where we have agreed. And we also need to work with the staff and also work with the department head in terms of what will be needed and how will that impact the services, and weigh all those options before we make that informed decision.
Okay.
Rich.
Yeah, at the risk of being repetitive, I am going to vote no this evening, but I would vote yes if we could, at our next meeting, if we could insert the names of the departments that are going to go in there. With that said, this does seem like a functional space, not an ideal location, but it would do what we needed to do in the short term. So if we can let the public know why the purpose we're going to buy this building for, I would support it in 2 weeks. Thanks.
Greg.
I just want to clarify a couple of, I guess, uses of terms or words. In 2 weeks, it will be the recommendation of the county administration which departments are recommended for occupancy within this building. It's not set in stone because ultimately the legislature has to vote on it. The reason why we're not floating some of the names out now is because I think based on some of the conversations we had, is we wanted to have a coherent conversation with all departments, let the departments know, impacted departments, so that we could pull out a full and robust statement, so that we didn't have to do any of these retractions, so that we could give the public time to come and comment. And I felt that that was the ask of many members around this table, was that if we were going to do it this way, that we gave ample time for, but it's not the county administrator that decides who goes here. It's the county administration that recommends placement. And yes, department heads, we should take what they say and weigh in, but I would ask them that they look at it through the lens of how does this impact my service delivery to those that I serve most frequently. Not is it convenient for my staff, not is it this or that, but how does it impact the service delivery for those I most serve frequently? And I think if we can have that type of conversation, because, you know, if I walk to work now and I have to now get in my car and drive up to somewhere, yeah, I probably won't like that. But if it doesn't make an impact to those that I serve most frequently, then, well, unfortunately, that's in the best interest of the county. And that's what we're here for. I think it is clear what we're doing is we're temporarily using this to house county departments. I don't think we're buying this without a purpose. I think the purpose is clear. I think the details need to be worked out over the next 2 weeks, and we'll give time for everybody to contribute at the next legislative session.
Okay, we're going to have a vote on Resolution J. This is the amended version that's in your red folder. We're going to have a roll call vote.
Shauna Black.
No.
Travis Brooks.
No.
Randy Brown.
Yes.
Amanda Champion.
Yes.
Deborah Dawson.
Yes.
Rich John.
No.
Ann Corman.
Yes.
Mike Lane.
Yes.
Greg Mezzi.
Yes.
Dan Nolan.
Yes.
Veronica Pillar.
No.
Lee Shirtliff.
Yes.
Mike Sigler.
No.
Dan Klein.
Yes. The motion carries 9-5. Thank you, everybody. We are now going to take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 7:48. Okay, if everyone can make their way back to their seats, please. Hear that either.
I don't think it's working. Maybe it is. Tap your gavel. Something's going on.
Yeah, the big cup.
We are not playing.
One.
Not playing. They're being very bad. No.
No, 1,000%.
Behave yourself.
Yeah, that's right. I just said I was in trouble.
Now
Can I just, is this fascinating or boring or?
That's great. I'm fine. I like debate. I like all
Oh, yeah, think about that.
Out in the drain.
It's just like, everywhere. Yeah, they just
Okay, thank you, everybody. Can everybody hear okay? It was a little weird audio before. It might have been because so many people were talking. It cut out the sound. Thanks for coming back. We are now going to go to resolutions A, B, and C. They were all pulled, so we'll do them in that order. Resolution A. Facilities and Infrastructure. And Lee, on the count of 3, can you introduce Resolution A, please? 1, 2, 3. Hi.
Dan, I'd like to ask Randy Brown to do the Facilities and Infrastructure. I was not at the meeting, and he can provide a better summary for us.
Very good. Okay, Randy, we're going to go to Resolution A. Do you want to introduce Resolution A? If you're willing to move it. If you're voting against it, you should not move it.
I've got 3 agendas open, so I'm finding that.
No problem. Sorry, I caught you guys off guard.
Want me to move it?
Okay, I think I'm in the right spot. Okay, this is from the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. Resolution A, authorizing 5475-2025-4 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307 Urban Formula Program Grant Application for Tompkins County ID number 13377. And I move that.
Is there a second? Seconds. Discussion.
So I pulled this, and so I would like to ask Frank Daldo to join us so we can talk about this. You can come sit next to me, Frank.
Well, I appreciate that you didn't ask me to do the podium because I was going to ask for a over-target request for a step ladder so you could see.
So anyway, this is about the allocation of these 5307 FTA grants. I noticed that $725,000 of this, which is a little over 15% of the total 5307 grant funding, is being used by the county for various purposes. I understand the 287,560, that's for staff. But there's about 437,000 that's going to various aspects of mobility management. And I guess you sent us an email today explaining that there are metrics for measuring the bang we're getting for those bucks. But I wanted to alert my colleagues to the fact that we can expect to get a fairly substantial ask from TCAT for an increase in our underwriters' contribution. And these funds that are being used for mobility management are funds that are not being given to TCAT or Gadabout. So I guess my question for you, or perhaps an issue that we ought to be considering, is although we can't pull this funding in the middle of the year, we need to think about whether this is the best use for these funds, or whether when we get to 26 or 27, we ought to be using these funds for TCAT and Gadabout. Because I know these are urban, this is an urban formula funding grant, but I also know that if TCAT doesn't get the assistance that it needs, it's going to have to cut services. And the services that are going to get cut first are probably the rural routes. They've already been cut to some extent. And so $400,000 could fund 2 or 3 rural routes for a year. I guess if you want to say something about this, that's fine, but I think we ought to be aware of what we're voting for when we vote for this.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. And let me just start off by saying, and I know you know this, and I know Shauna knows this, TCAT has had a 360-degree turnaround from a year ago, and even more so when I started in March of 2023. The staff at TCAT has been just doing phenomenal work. It's your decision on how you want to spend the money as the prime recipient of $5307. So to answer your question, can we pull it? I put a call into the FTA this morning to try to get a response, and because I was on the phone with the FTA reviewers for the triennial most of the morning and some in the afternoon, we played phone tag. I will be calling tomorrow to see what impact. Here's what I do know.
Okay.
Right now, all these resolutions that you have before you have gone through editing from us on what the feedback was, and through the FTA process where they have to send it to the Department of Labor and get approval there and other sources. That FTA process takes 1 to 2 months. Right now, it's in final reservation concurrence and then becomes executed. So that's one option that I believe FTA will tell me is that we can pull it. The second option, I believe, because it's a new grant, that once it's executed, we can de-obligate the money and then re-obligate the money to a new project. That process, because TRAMS closes in September, that process will probably not be available for drawdowns until February, March, April of 2026.
Well, for the benefit of those of you who haven't had the wonderful experience of working with transit funding, this trans thing shuts down. It's the FTA's actual funding mechanism, and they shut it down for a month every year right around when the federal government starts working on its next fiscal year budget. So we've run into problems with that before. I don't think I'm really suggesting that we don't approve this for this year. I guess what I'm asking that we all consider and that you consider is, going forward, how much money do we want to spend on mobility management? Because if we pull it now, we're pulling the rug out from under Go Ithaca and One Call,
One Click Center.
One Call, One Click. And I think we owe those programs advance warning before we pull it. But I just wanted you all to be cognizant of the fact that, as always with our money, every penny we spend over here is something we're taking away from something else. And the something else in this case is TCAT. So, thanks.
Further discussion, Resolution A. Shauna?
I guess I'm wondering, at what committee can we discuss that at F&I so that it actually is picked up in committee and we can have that conversation? I guess that's Lee, yeah. Okay. Or should we wait till budget time, or?
Well, for next year, we'll have to wait for budget.
Yeah.
I mean, I know there was an RFP for the Go Ithaca piece.
Everything was RFP, the app, Go Ithaca, the One Call, One Click Center, all three were RFP'd per our procurement.
What was the duration of what the RFP covered? Was it just year by year?
So it's a one-year contract with 4 one-year extensions.
At our option?
Correct.
Okay, so we can consider this for next year?
Correct, you can consider, yes.
Shauna, did you get your question answered?
I don't know. I mean, I guess if we could talk about it in facility as to, we would need to give enough time, enough notice. If it was decided that the funds were going to switch over.
Next year.
Next year for 26.
The 25, I hope I'm getting this right because it's so confusing. The 25 FY fiscal year 2025 will come out let me just look at my notes for a minute. Once Congress passes the budget, there'll be a partial apportionment for in January, February, and then I believe April will be the full apportionment, which is usually used by the entities for the 2027 budget.
I think it would just be helpful for all of us to know what those agencies do and what we would not have access to if they were no longer. Because I would have no idea how to vote if I don't know what they do.
So at the F&I committee meeting recently, we did a presentation on the mobility vision, outlining what everybody's doing, the performance metrics, and I did share with Legislator Mezzi that I do plan on coming to F&I, and if the full ledge want me to come after the full year has done this year, and outline the performance metrics, what was accomplished, what wasn't accomplished, and give information on what each organization has done, and also give the metrics on the app, because we're also getting evaluated by FTA evaluators on metrics for mobility management, One Call, One Click, and the app.
Okay, great.
For the MOS project.
Thank you.
Did you want to follow up with that, Deborah? I do have a bunch of other people in the queue.
Yeah, I'm just evaluating whether or not this allocation goes forward into 26 and 27 is more or less an off-budget thing for the county. Is that correct? Because these are federal funds, so we don't budget as part of our process.
I do budget in my county budget estimated federal and state revenues for January 1st through December 31st.
So if we waited until January for you to tell us the metrics, that would be too late for us to decide what we want to do about next year, right?
Yeah, because if you want the full year, we just started mobility management, the RFP, and One Call, One Click, January 1st of this year. you had mobility management in several different aspects.
I know we did.
But for this purpose, the two organizations that are doing mobility management, until the year's complete, I won't be able to give you the full metrics and the performance metrics and all of that. But if you decide, you decide. We make movement.
Okay. Randy, was that, you didn't want to talk anymore? Is that?
You answered my question.
Okay, very good. Rich?
Yeah, I wanted to just note, it sounds like you really opened up this process this spring and solicited input on the allocation. I think that was a really good step. And it sounds like it's really complicated, but just figuring out how to bring the legislature somewhere into that process, I think would be a really good step to go further in 26. So thanks. I will support the resolution.
Yeah, I want to just draw attention to an email that Frank shared with everybody this afternoon. And I think one of the things that we don't do well enough, but I think Frank highlights in the reporting that he has established prior to essentially the start of the contract period, and how looking at things by quarter and with milestone dates, and as we have grantees of county funds, I feel like this is the level of detail that we should be looking at during the budget process to say, is something valuable? Is it making the impact that we hope it makes? So I hope that county administration maybe can take note of the format or this template that Frank has for these two programs, because this is when I say, you know, we need more data, we need to be looking at data. This is a nice way to make sure that the grantee knows exactly what they're going to be measured on in advance of the program starting, and something we can use to then evaluate the effectiveness of the program. So I want to just commend you, Frank and team, for putting that together, because I think that's being really good stewards of the funds that we're entrusted with. So thank you.
Okay, ready for a vote on Resolution A?
Yes.
All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Resolution B.
Okay, we're on to Resolution B. It's authorizing 5475-2025-5 Federal Transit Administration, Section 5 through 7 Urban Formula Grant Application for Tompkins Consolidated Area Transit, TCAT, and I move it.
Is there a second? Deborah seconds.
I had this removed just because I wanted a discussion quickly, and is this the primary funding for TCAT from Fed and state?
From Fed. The county, as the prime recipient of federal funds, gets an appropriation of approximately 4.6 million, I think it was for 2026.
Look at it, it says federal 3,256,000, and then state the same dollar amount for a total of 6.5 million.
So the resolution is for the appropriation for the federal grant to obtain those funds. In the federal grant, we have to put, since this is for operating expenses, we have to put where is the 50% match coming from, and where to notify the feds. The 50% is coming from STOA. I would suggest, correct me if I'm wrong, Deborah, STOA is probably the largest funding source from the state and the feds that TCAT receives. They receive approximately, don't quote me on this, but around 8 million a year.
I can't remember.
It's 2, 4, 6, 8, and then maybe cleanup funds. So it could be between $8 and $11 million a year. They're the largest funding source.
Largest single funding source.
Single funding source.
State
Transportation Operating Assistance.
Okay, thank you.
New York State.
New York State, they get paid $1.15 per mile and 68 cents per fare-paying passenger.
Point of information, the match you're using in this resolution, is that STOA funds?
Yes.
That's coming out of that 8 to 11?
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, ready to vote on Resolution B? All in favor? Any opposed? That carries unanimously. Thank you. Resolution C.
Okay. Resolution C, authorizing 5474-2025-6 Federal Transit Administration, Section 5307, Urban Formula Program Grant Application for Gadabout. And I move it.
Is there a second? Veronica seconds. Discussion. Greg.
I pulled this because it was a trio of resolutions, so I wanted the
Greg just
conversation.
got carried away.
Conversation. I was just excited. I thought we were skeet shooting or something, so I just pulled it. Yeah, we're good.
Okay, any other discussion? Resolution C. Okay, let's have a vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you all.
Okay, we had one more resolution that we had pulled out of order, and that's what we're going to do next, and that is Resolution K.
All right, we have Resolution K, Doc ID 13464, authorization to enter into a 3 to 5 year lease agreement with the McGuire Family Limited Partnership for the operation of the 2025 to 2030 Code Blue Emergency Shelter in collaboration with the City of Ithaca Homeless Services Navigation Hub. And I so move.
Travis seconds. Discussion. Okay, ready to vote? Really?
Yes.
Let's vote. Veronica.
I mean, can someone give
Yeah.
a brief
I think
overview
someone needs
for
to give a brief
the
overview.
public?
Thank you.
Not me, please.
Sure, this is the resolution that, I mean, it's in the title. This is the partnership and collaboration we've been talking about for Code Blue Emergency Shelter and a navigation hub with the City of Ithaca, a joint partnership. And this would be to secure the lease, what I think is referred to as the Burger King site.
So yeah, I'm gonna give a shot to summarize. Oh, Rich, do you want to?
No, you go ahead. Go ahead.
Give it just quick summarizing for the public. So we are planning, if we vote this and if the City Council votes it tomorrow, we will be leasing this former fast food restaurant on Route 13. The county will use it for its Code Blue operations, which is a winter cold time emergency shelter like we've been doing for about a decade now. And this will just be a new location. But what's new is the collaboration with the city. The city will be operating it during the daytime. Dominic, I'm going to put you on the spot. I should have told you ahead of time. Will you be willing to talk a little bit about what the city's program would look like in this building?
The city.
Introduce yourself too, please.
Hi, everyone. Dominic Recchio, Deputy City Manager, City of Ithaca. Essentially, the city would operate a daytime homeless services navigation hub, which would involve not-for-profit agencies and other service providers working with city staff to make sure that individuals experiencing homelessness in the city of Ithaca have a transitional space to and from encampments as they're addressed within the city, as well as the ability to seek housing, medical, and other resources through that space. The location in particular, I think, is important to mention as well. The Burger King site owned by McGuire at this location is adjacent to the parcel where the city's policy temporarily allows camping on city-owned land, allowing for a lot of adjacency abilities with this.
Yeah, Dominic, thank you for coming to our meeting. And I would just add, this is an issue we've been talking about for as long as I've been on the legislature, and I'm in my 10th year. And the issue in our community has gone on long before that. And it has been a really, really frustrating project to try to do something about it. I think this is a significant attempt. I've long felt that for us to do anything positive here, it had to be a collaboration between the city and the county, which is harder but necessary. And I cannot predict the future. Maybe this won't work, but I have some real optimism that this will make our situation substantially better and structured, which is a big part of what we've been trying to do for a very long time. So I'm really happy to vote in support of this resolution tonight. Thank you.
Anybody else? I'll just say too, Rich, I am also optimistic about this project in a way that I don't always feel. Okay, ready for a vote? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Dominic.
Thank you.
And everyone else who stayed this long for this part of the meeting. Okay, we are now going back to the regular order of things, which brings us to standing and special committees. And we are up to the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee, Veronica Pillar, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Advisory Committee did not end up meeting this past month, so we haven't met since our last legislature meeting, and we will next be meeting the fourth Wednesday in August, whatever that is, the 27th, and topics to be confirmed and shared at the next legislature meeting.
Questions or comments for the Workforce Diversity and Inclusion Committee? Next up, Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee, Mike Lane, Chair.
Thank you. We have not met since our last legislature meeting, except we did have a budget retreat sponsored by our county administration, in which our county administrator, who was our chief budget officer, gave us a presentation about where we are at this late date toward the budget and how he's moving ahead to try to keep a rather large hole in the budget from getting worse, and for trying to see if we can't lower the amount of tax increase that we may be facing for this year. So we appreciate that. He'll be coming to us with a recommended budget in early September. That was on the July 23rd. Our next meeting is on August 14th. And I did want to mention that today, and I appreciated the help of Katrina McCloy and Taylor Spencer, we sent out a letter to all candidates for legislature, whatever party or independents or whatever they were, who were not serving on the legislature and were not coming back, likely, with a copy of our EBC schedule. And I invited them to please come to hear the department heads talk, because that was the one opportunity when they could have the ability to hear from all of our departments, even for their brief presentations. I just think that would be useful for any new legislator who might get elected and come on to our board. So that went out today.
EBC, Expanded Budget Committee.
Correct.
Any
Deborah, anything else?
Oh, sorry. No. Questions or comments for the Budget, Capital, and Personnel Committee? Lee.
Just a clarification, maybe more to you, Dan, than Mike, but the $11 million number that went across the radio last week garnered a lot of attention in my district. I think it is important to point out that that is a number involved with the budget requests that have been made, not necessarily, that's not necessarily our maintenance of effort number. Is that correct?
It is our maintenance of effort.
It is the maintenance of effort.
I think so, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Before we add anything.
Right.
So just to clarify that number, we look at both revenue and expenditure. Department are asking for $5 million more to maintain the same level of service as they're doing this year. They are projecting to receive $6 million less in revenue than what they projected to receive this year. And that is where we got $11 million from. So what we're trying to do in this process is identify why they are estimating less revenue than next year than this year. For expense is about 3%, so we are not too concerned about that number because the salary increases, inflation and other factors. So we are focusing more on the revenue side to be able to bridge the gap as much as possible. We're still paying attention on the expense side to see other departments that probably are projecting higher because their target is higher. So those are some of the things we are looking at.
I appreciate that. The expenses have not gone up $1 million. It's the combination of factors.
And for whatever it's worth, what I've been saying is $11 million is a very serious number, but it's a starting number. It's not the ending number. So. Okay, I have Rich and then Mike Sigler.
No, of course I addressed it.
Mike Sigler.
Well, since we're on that topic, I'm just wondering, of course, are you recommending any course of action to cut expenses, to cut into that $11 million like now as opposed to waiting for some later date?
We are reviewing the numbers right now. We do not have a recommendation for you at this point. We met with all the departments. We have started going through the numbers from each line in every single department, and then working with the department to also make some adjustments. So I can say we have not met even 20% of the department yet, but we have been able to look close to about $2 million adjustment so far. So it's an ongoing process. So by the time we are compiling the recommended budget, we'll be able to provide you an overview of where we feel we will land. But there's no recommendation at this point for a blanket cut of anything from any department. We are working with them to make sure there's a good conversation and working through the process, make sure we are very close to where we communicated to you during the retreat.
Okay, moving on. Community Recovery Fund Advisory Committee, no report. Downtown Facilities Special Committee, Randy Brown, Chair.
Yes, we had a good meeting this morning. We talked about a lot of things. The parking study done by Holt looked at pretty much a 10-minute walk area around the Center Grove building. Quite a few legislatures attended. It really showed the available parking spaces based on their studies over a few days, including ramps, parking ramps, and those kinds of things. So that was interesting, and we're going to be getting a copy of that, and then Jordan will be emailing that to all the legislators who see that. Is also, as Andy Corman mentioned, they also did a where each department tracked the people coming into their various departments and how they got there. And so we'll be getting that data as well. So we'll understand truly how people are getting into the Office of the Aging or the Assessment Office or the Clerk's Office. I'm not sure it included Board of Elections or not, but we'll find out when we get that report. We should be getting that shortly. If you would make sure that we, as Annie Corman's mentioned many times, we'd love to get these things before the meeting so we can all look at them. So that'll be circulated to everybody. I already talked about deconstruction. We'll talk about that. But we did talk quite a while about the actual design of the building and how legislature input should be received and how quickly it needs to be received. Of course, public input's very important, but we need to, if this legislature is going to move forward and vote on this project, we also need to vote on some type of design. So if memory serves, there's going to be Monica, maybe there's going to be a online portal where legislatures can give their opinion on the various buildings and designs that have been recommended so far, separate from the public. But we're also looking at sometime in September for this legislature to give a lot more input to Holt so they truly can design the building and get the process going so this full legislature can vote on this project this year. So that was a lot of discussion. Does anybody that was in that meeting have any other comment on that? Or Dan, feel free.
Thank you. Yeah, I was surprised. I said to Holt, when do you need this legislator input? And they said, oh, in the next week or two. That surprised me. So I just want to put that on everyone's radar. Soon you need to give your input, because 2 months from now I say, well, I don't really like that design. It gets later and later to steer the ship. So I don't know if I mixed my metaphors there. Ann.
Yeah, if I remember correctly, to add on to that, what you said, Dan, was that they said they might send something out like a separate link for us, for legislators, to complete the survey that is already online regarding likes and dislikes, suggestions for the center of government. So be looking for that, and when that comes, if that's what we're going to do, so that we're going to need a fast turnaround to give our input. And I would imagine that's like a first pass at like building designs and things like that. And then they're going to give us some other ideas after that. I don't think, I think there'll be time later. They won't just take all that and said, here's your design. So we'll have some input later, but this is the first initial pass. Does that sound correct?
It does. I'm thinking that they could actually present, based on that feedback, provide to us in September some design options so that we can discuss them here at the full legislature. Does that make sense for everybody? Versus just through committee. It could go through F&I first, I suppose, or would you rather just have them do with the whole committee for the whole legislature?
Full.
Okay.
Shauna.
Yeah, I was wondering, I know that the city of Ithaca passed some new type of like window ordinance that's supposed to be bird friendly, and was wondering if there was any conversation about that, because I did notice that some of the buildings actually had really big windows, and didn't know if there was conversation.
Can I address that?
Go ahead, Danny.
Yeah, so I talked to them, mentioned that during the meeting, I think it was when we had the center of government community input meeting. I'm losing track of all the days. Last Monday or Tuesday? We had that last week, right?
Yes.
And then I followed up with them after the meeting because they were talking about just glass aspects. And I suggested one big part of it is just reducing the amount of glass. And they hadn't, at least the folks that were here, didn't know about some of the research that had been done, because we had a presentation to Peak last year or so. Year, yeah. And then we added a bird-friendly criteria to our green building policy. So I gave them a link to that research, and they're going to send that out, because there's a lot of different aspects you can do to the building besides just the glass.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, anything else for the Downtown Facilities Special Committee? All right, moving on. Facilities and Infrastructure Committee, Lee Shurtleff, Chair.
Again, let me ask Vice Chair Randy Brown to deliver this report.
Okay, we had a meeting, last meeting we had was July 17th of the Facilities and Infrastructure Committee. We talked about, we got the highway status report and all the projects are going on there. The biggest issue was we did a resolution amendment agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration, which is required with the airport, and that was passed. We've talked about the resolutions that already came through on transportation. That was about it. Was there anything else I missed? Anybody that was there? It's a fairly quick meeting, and we spent a lot of time discussing the resolutions already. So,
Resolution G.
okay, that's right. So we talked about the approval of amended bylaws, Tompkins County Air Service Board, and this is Resolution G, ID number 13394, approval of amended bylaws, Tompkins County Air Service Board, and I move that.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Greg seconds, okay. Further discussion, because I have something that I would like to add. So anything first, Greg?
First, Dan, apologies from the committee. I know you had sent a number of these changes, and I was under the impression that we had incorporated them, and I know we maybe left a few clarifying ones out. I will support the amendment. It was not intentional or discussed. I think we felt it was inclusive of what the intent of the feedback we got was.
Great. Okay, I'm going to take a turn. So in your red folder, there's proposed amendment from me. 3 areas that are highlighted in blue are my proposed amendments. So I would like to move the amended version. Is there a second? Greg seconds. Thank you. How much of a discussion would you like about my 3 suggestions?
Not a lot.
I just wonder, has the Air Service Boards or has Roxanne Noble, I see she's on the screen, reviewed these? Do they have any problem with any of this?
Roxanne, okay.
Yeah, hi there. So when we had met for facilities and infrastructure, and I'd been, in communication with Katrina, and seeing she had sent me all the information from Dan. I don't believe there was any issues, and there wasn't anything that was major that would change the intent of what the bylaws were initially. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Greg, but I think everything was kind of similar to what we had been through at the Air Service Board meetings.
That's correct.
Thank you. Is there anyone that does not find the amendment friendly? Okay, it becomes the main motion then. Thank you, everybody. Ready to vote on this? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Much appreciated.
Point of information.
Yes.
I believe we had a number of appointees to the Air Service Board that were.
Yes, that's the next thing on the agenda.
Oh, okay. Never mind. I'll go back to my chair.
Individuals.
Okay, then we need a motion, right, to appoint to the Air Services Board Kurt Anderson, Ithaca Area Economic Development Representative, Michael Horan, General Aviation Business, and Peggy Coleman, Tompkins County Chamber of Commerce or Visitors Bureau Representative. Do I have such a motion? Deborah moves, Greg seconds. Any discussion? Let's have a vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. Okay, moving on to the next committee report. We have Government Operations Committee, Amanda Champion, Chair.
Thank you. Government Operations will be meeting in 2 days, on Thursday, August 7th at 2 o'clock. We are going to have an update from our friend Susan Curry about how things are going at the library. We will have assessment there to talk about a variety of things, a couple of resolutions, the assessment role footings, and some other discussion. I had on the agenda, I had invited Steve DeWitt and Alana to come to talk about the space issue because I had talked to him last week, but I don't think we will need to talk about that at this point. If they come and they want to give us an update on other things, that would be great. And then we're going to have several policy update discussions on data retention, the use of AI. Yeah, those are the main ones. And then we are also going to have a discussion that we were unable to have last month about the legislature coming up with some equity indicators, as we've asked all our department heads to come up with. We want to talk with Charlene Holmes and get some guidance on what the legislature's equity indicators could be. So we are going to have all those discussions, and it's going to be a great time. So I hope to see you all there.
Questions or comments for the Government Operations Committee? Ann?
Yeah, so you're having Board of Elections, not the Assessment Board, come for this meeting?
No, assessment will be there.
Assessment also?
I don't know if BOE will be there.
Okay, I think at GO, but somewhere I had asked about if when we're getting information about how our budget affects tax levy, not just in addition to residential properties, but could we have information on commercial properties? Because we've never had that before. And I think sometimes we've seen, like us trying to figure out trying to make the math work. And it doesn't work because we're not just taxing residential, there's other properties that we tax. So I was hoping we could get some information on that, and I think.
Sure, I can reach out to Jay and see if that's something he could talk about at that time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anything else for government operations? Moving on, Health and Human Services Committee, Travis Brooks, Chair.
We met last on 7/16. We're going to meet again on 8/20. We had a few resolutions from DSS, one we'll get to in a second. COFA came and gave a presentation on caregiver.
Can you use the mic, Travis?
Yeah, gotcha. COFA came and gave a presentation on caregiver resources. It was a really good presentation. You should go back and watch it. They did a really good job. We do have a resolution, H, Contingent Fund Appropriation, Department of Social Services, DSS, 2025 budget adjustment for temporary housing assistance, THA, shelter services, ID 13355. It's about an $870,000 adjustment related to THA. Corsa, you want to share something about it? Oh, wait, then we got to do a...
We need a second, yes. A second.
Do we have a mover? We need a mover first, right?
Did you move it?
You move it.
Oh, I guess, okay, fine.
If you're going to, unless you're going to vote against it. Unless you're going to vote against it.
He's only been here 3.5 years, folks.
Corsa, did you want to say something? Yeah.
I think this is just to meet our ongoing increasing cost of providing shelter services. We are working on getting a provider. We are hoping that when we are able to get a provider in place, some of those costs can be reduced. But at the moment, based on our current operation, we're just trying to be able to meet the cost of our expenses for the rest of the year.
Did you have more?
Yes, most of the costs came from roadway before we opened up to do THA. So it was the staffing, the hiring, the rental before we started getting reimbursement.
Greg.
The folks that we hired into the positions to service the shelter operations, were those permanent positions, temporary positions?
Seasonal.
Seasonal?
I think Ruby is not here, but I believe the position we created to serve the shelter as long as we run it. So if, for example, we get a provider tomorrow and the provider takes over that operation, then we would not have those positions anymore, and it's up to the operator to hire their own staff. So they are county staff as long as we are running the shelter.
Great. Thank you for the clarity.
Ready to vote on Resolution H? We are not. Lee.
Of course, are some of those employees still working at the roadway and so on?
Yeah, so basically, employees working at roadway were those, some of them were those we hired when we were running the Cold Blue shelter. And then after the Cold Blue, we moved them to roadway. So we are now going to the new Cold Blue season. If the county is going to run Cold Blue again, we may be required to hire additional staff because even the staff at the roadway are insufficient. So there are processes in place for us to start potentially recruiting a new batch of people to run Cold Blue, unless we're able to find a provider who can show up, scale up and do the Cold Blue services. But the status quo remains just as what we did last year.
As I recall a conversation at budget, it's the hiring of that provider that generates the revenue from outside sources, correct?
Not necessarily, because, for example, for Cold Blue, it's funded through the Cold Blue allocation that we will get, but THA is reimbursed at 29%. So, but what we're doing now, because we don't have a shelter, we are only reimbursed per hotel room rate, but the staff are paid as county DSS operational budget from those allocations. So we don't get reimbursement through the THA program for the staff that are running the shelter at the moment.
I think it's important to understand why we're looking at $800 and some thousand in contingency funds based on those urgent changes that were made last fall in order to accommodate Code Blue with the lack of a provider moving forward. This should go away.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll just say, what we paid in January and February of last year, because there was nobody in the space, is 100% county cost. And those are the reasons why we have some of those gaps in the budget that we are trying to be able to do this adjustment to meet those running costs. And,
I can
Brittany
speak to a little bit.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
haven't been here very long, so understanding some of this. Thomas, my finance director, is also on there, so he can help a little bit, maybe more than I can. So we learned in mid-June that we can't claim payment for empty rooms in anticipation of them being used for shelter. So up to now, we would seek reimbursement as an administrative cost. We would seek reimbursement through New York State, but now we can't do that. So we can only seek reimbursement from New York State when a room is occupied. So hence now we have this amount that we need to cover. We've contracted roughly 44 to 47 rooms with Roadway. So like Corsa was saying, if we get a provider, that will essentially offset this rough $870,000. So that's something that we're working on together to make happen, because that would be huge for our budget. That would be huge for the community. However, if we don't, then like looking at 2026, we've budgeted for the offset of the rental rooms, but not for like security and other programmatic charges like plates or disinfecting wipes and coffee. But for the rooms, we have. And I don't have that specific number, but it's much larger than the smaller.
Thomas wanted to speak as well. Thomas, you.
Finance, yes.
Thank you. Regardless of whether or not we get a provider going forward for the rest of this year, that money, the expenditures of that $800,000 that we're adding, so where you have the ability to spend the money in our programmatic needs, part of that's already been spent. The issue we're coming across is, as Brittany said, and Corsa said, in January and February, when the rooms were not occupied, OTDA will not let us get any reimbursement back on those rooms. So even if we get a provider, that will still remain true, and we will still have that $800,000 need in contingent funds.
Thank you. I have Rich, then Randy.
Yeah, I thought I was unconfused, but now I'm confused again. Do we anticipate having another $800,000 shortfall in '26?
At the moment, we have made provisions in the budget to cover the current operation, as Brittany added. So we have made provision in the budget for this. If we're able to find a provider, there may be a cost difference that we can do an adjustment based on our current projections, but the numbers that we receive from Thomas for DSS is making provisions for that. Remember, last year's budget was adopted September and October, and we had to show up and run the shelter November, December. So this was not made, the numbers as we are paying right now was not catered for in the 2025 budget in 2024 when it was being adopted.
But you're saying if we don't get a provider, we're not going to take it out of contingent fund, but we've put it in a budget, so we're spending $800,000 more.
Right now with the budget we are looking at, we've already put money in there on the assumption that we are going to be running the current operation as is, because we don't have a provider on the table, so we don't know even how much it will cost us, even though we are expecting that to be less than what we're doing right now.
Thank you.
Randy.
Yeah, I think that we're going to continue to see the cost for homelessness increase, whether we like it or not. Do we track where people come from? And meaning, do we know that, because I know that 2 years ago, it was about 110 people, now it's 200 and some people that are coming to Ithaca. My guess is that at least half of them aren't originating here, they're coming from other places to come here because we put them in hotels. And I'm not, for lack of being heartless, are we required by law for anybody that comes here, we have to put them in housing?
I would speak to that to say, if John Doe comes here, goes to DSS, apply for shelter, and they are eligible for THA, it doesn't matter how long they have been here, they have to place them.
Is there a 30-day limit or anything like that?
I do not believe that. I think it's something Brittany being new, and also I think Dina is not here, but we can provide you with that information through HHS. But for example, like Cold Blue, for example, if somebody calls in, it doesn't matter what their income levels is. As long as they say, I don't have anywhere to go and the temperature is below 32 degrees, we have to house them. If they have a child with them, we cannot, and we have a shelter, we cannot put them in the shelter, we have to put them in the hotel or somewhere. And so those are some of the things that we have to deal with. So there's a lot of expenses that the county bears for temporary housing. That is why the goal is to be able to help people get housing and maintain them. And as long as we are not able to provide permanent housing or supported housing situation for people, we continue to see this cost increases because people are struggling to keep houses, and also with the cost of housing going up and up and up, people are being kicked out and we are forced to house them. But I don't have the data as to the newness of some of the clients that we are serving, but they are deemed eligible, and that is why we are placing them into the facilities that we have.
Are you aware that some counties are telling people that they don't have housing for there, that they should come here?
I have not heard that, but I can say, we will find a detail from, we will get additional information from Dina and the team as to what are some of the things that they are seeing, but with the DSS processes and things like that, when somebody comes to your door knocking for support, they look at their programs, evaluate if the people are eligible, and try to provide them those support services. But there's a lot of hearsay in other places and some things like that, but I think for this community, we have been very proactive in terms of supporting people and helping people, and there is an assumption that people want to come here because we are willing to help. The other places that maybe that willingness is not there, and maybe other factors also exist that drive people away from those communities. I can't speak to that precisely. But we are commuting in the county where a lot of people come here to work and go out for housing because they can afford to live here, and also they won't be able to meet the cost of living that exists in the city and other.
So I understand that.
There's many factors that is.
I understand all that.
Pulling people into here.
It would be helpful to know if this trend's going to continue. So if we're seeing this homeless people continue, it's going to continue to cost us money at 29%. So reimbursement. So I mean, for budgeting purposes, I mean, we've got to get a grip on this. We're building buildings left and right, apartments all over the place, and somehow we continue to grow our homeless population. Yep. And I understand some people become homeless because it's under circumstances they can't control.
Yeah. So I can speak to that a little bit. So at Roadway, we have a senior caseworker who recently has helped several families move into permanent housing. Some of these families who haven't had housing for years. So that is a fantastic
So that
forward
data,
movement.
so that's the kind of data I'm looking for. I want to see
And
how
I can
this
get
is
you
all
more
happening.
numbers.
Right.
I don't have the numbers on the top of my head right now, so I apologize, and get you those numbers. And we just hired a senior caseworker who will work with adults to help do the same thing. So the caseworkers that we have at Roadway right now are very good at working with the families and understanding their needs and understanding the housing in the area and how to help move them into permanent housing. So that is progress right now. The hope is that we will be able to staff that and continue this progress moving forward so that we're helping individuals get into permanent housing and that we're lessening the impact of the homeless population on the county.
Yeah, and Brittany, I realize you've only been here 2 weeks, so I mean, I'm not asking for this tomorrow. I'm just saying that's something in the future that would be nice to see that kind of data to see what's really affecting all this.
Absolutely, and I will say that some of the data from a state perspective is tough to get. So there's some things that the state won't let us collect. And then there's other ways where I'm looking and working with my staff to understand what we can collect as a county. So I'm still kind of getting into that and understanding the state versus the county and where we can pull some data and make things happen. Because I agree, data is important. It's important for making decisions. It's important for understanding who we're helping, how we're helping, and if it's helping. So I agree.
Thank you. Ann.
Yeah, if we're looking at, trends and things like that, maybe coordinating, maybe it would be helpful if I know you're here 2 weeks, but to coordinate with Liddy Barger from the Continuum of Care, who comes to HED. So Randy, some of the questions you might have, if you want to attend HED, Liddy comes every time we have a meeting. She's been coming, and to be able to answer questions like that, I know it's been, that type of topic has been brought up before, and Liddy, who's in charge, keeps the pulse of what's happening nationally, there's not a lot of data.
Yeah.
Well, what data there was, I believe there wasn't, she didn't see any trends that a lot of, the trends they did see is people are migrating all over from one place to another, where we might see people migrating in, there's other people migrating out, and there's really no one keeping track of that exactly. But if, to Randy's point, if we have a concern that, well, if we're providing hotels, if we're thinking that is where we're spending a lot more money and maybe that's more attractive to people, I mean, we want to give them, I just want to say, we want to give them the best, the most appropriate place for them and the safest place to take care of them. But if we're concerned about a trend that people are just coming here for hotels, for us to have shelters, then we're not having the hotel rooms, so.
Veronica.
I appreciate the questions. I'm not from here, by the way. I moved to this county because I was told I could get $30,000 a year to study physics, and I just came without having a connection here. I think it's worthwhile to have this data, but I also think, I don't want to go in the direction of adding another barrier to figure out, are you really from here? Where are you from, before helping people with their basic needs. People are allowed to cross county lines. And also, I guess Brittany can correct me if I'm wrong, but I think emergency shelter, immediate is one thing, but I think for THA or other sheltering, you don't just get it. You still have to fill out a form where you tell the place you last lived and tell all your landlords, and do you have anyone whose couch you could possibly stay on, and this, that, and the other. So people are already being requested that information anyway, as obnoxious as that can be. No shade to you. I know the state has regulations.
And I just want to add that about 2 weeks ago, I was in a meeting with the Finger Lakes Region County Administrator. All of us are seeing the same cost increases in their counties for housing and homelessness. So it's not just Tompkins, it's all over the place. Everybody's seeing those cost runs and increasing number of homelessness.
Okay, we ready to vote on Resolution H?
Yep.
Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Housing and Economic Development Committee, Greg Mezzi, Chair.
I will keep my update as brief as our meeting will be tomorrow, Wednesday, August 6th at 3 p.m. We have report and discussion from our Planning and Sustainability Department on the Community Housing Development Fund Round 25 awards, and also housing work in the Department of Planning and Sustainability. As always, we have a homeless and housing update section today, which a lot of this conversation would be a good fit for. And then we also have a member-filed resolution on the Homeward Bound Reunification Program submitted by Legislator Sigler, which will be up for discussion. And so happy to entertain any questions. Don't have anything now till we get to member-filed resolutions.
Questions or comments for the Housing and Economic Development Committee? Moving on, Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee, Ann Corman, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. We have not met since our last, pardon me, smoke's getting to me in the air. We have not met since our last legislative meeting. We are meeting this Monday, August 11th at 1 p.m. here. And a couple of things that are on the agenda include, one is rescheduling the October meeting because it conflicts with Indigenous Peoples Day, and it's looking like I've heard back from all the legislators that are on our committee. It looks like October 14th at 1 p.m. works for everybody, so I'll let Taylor know about that. We are going to have a report from Recycling and Materials Management regarding the average commodity revenue, and so you can take a look. It's in the packet, or also come and hear about that, because that affects their budget quite a bit. And then they have a resolution about transferring the paper bag reduction fee revenue. And last but certainly not least, we have a presentation from NYSEG, the New York State Electric and Gas, regarding the rate case. And so the county has signed on as a party to the rate case. And so I'm encouraging folks to either attend, legislators attend in person if you can, or via Zoom, because NYSEG is going to be here so you'll be able to ask questions of them. And some of the things that they're going to be talking about is their rationale, where they're getting their figures from, and the agenda's out so you can see what they're going to be presenting. So they're going to be talking about what drivers are affecting what they're proposing for their rate increase over the next 5 years, the process that the rate case is going to go through, and let's see, I'm trying to read my notes here. This will not, they will, other times in the past we've had more presentations at the full legislature, but we discussed this, and since we have a lot of topics that are coming to the full legislature, for now we're going to keep the discussion at peak at our committee. So please come and ask questions there. And just one spoiler alert, what they're proposing over the next 5 years, NYSEG, is for electric fees, or for electricity, is a rate increase of 23.6% on top of, what they've already instituted, which was huge. And residential gas, they're proposing over the next 5 years a 33.5% increase. So this is their proposal, and they have to go through a whole system a whole process to do that. So please come and ask your questions.
Questions or comments for the Planning, Energy, and Environmental Quality Committee? Shauna.
I actually, the day that they announced their rate case, they had invited some electeds, and I was at that meeting, and it's interesting because they tried to market it that, of course, there's all these expenses they're incurring. But one of the things that I'm also seeing on my bill is that not only are we receiving this increase of all of our rates, but they're doubling their service fees and they're adding additional service fees. And so while it might appear to look flat, like everyone should really keep an eye on your service fees, because my wife and I definitely noticed that they're doubling those. So.
Okay. Moving on, we are going to the Public Safety Committee. Rich John, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. The Public Safety Committee met on July 22nd. We had a presentation from Ultimate Reentry Opportunities on a jobs program that they're doing. We had a discussion about the camera system that the sheriff is using to identify license plates, the flock system, and there's, I think, some more to come there. We also had an interesting conversation about a potential for a fire training center. The existing site in the city of Ithaca has kind of reached the end of its useful life. And this is something that various volunteers, firefighters throughout the county are asking for. And it looks like it might have some application for EMS and police officers as well as a training center. So we looked at prices for various configurations, and it's interesting that there was a ton of information presented on these facilities that have been built all around us at other counties. So we asked for more information on what would really be requested here, and also what are the grant opportunities for that. So a lot more to come on that. I'd give you the jail numbers, 62 with 0 board outs. So those numbers are a little bit lower than they have been, which is good news, I think. We will be meeting on August 26th at 1 o'clock. And I have 2 items to vote on. But I'd see if there's any questions on any of that.
Questions or comments on the report?
Okay, I would move the approval of updated amended bylaws, criminal justice alternatives to incarceration advisory board, doc ID 13410.
Shauna seconds. Amanda.
I just had one, I think is a typo, on packet page 31, about halfway down the page, under number 5, chair. The second sentence says the body chair. I think it should just say chair.
I think that would be a useful amendment to make.
I wasn't sure
And I think
what
that's
that meant.
manifest.
Okay.
So I don't think we have to do an amendment.
That's all.
The only change done in the bylaws was to reference the changes to the administrative policy manual, essentially. So nothing bigger.
Any further discussion? Resolution I. Okay, let's vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you.
And then I have an appointment to the Criminal Justice Alternatives to Incarceration Advisory Board. It's Jennifer Brownell from the Advocacy Center, doc ID 13461, and I'd move that appointment.
Travis seconds. Any discussion? Okay, let's vote then. All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, Rich. Moving on. Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations Committee, Shauna Black, Chair.
Thank you, Dan. We meet tomorrow at 11 a.m. and we will be joined by Cornell University and C3. Our representative from Congressman Riley's office is not available, and we are not going to be joined by NISEC or Leah Webb or Anna Kellis's office either. So it should be a super short meeting, and I'm not sure how much of an update Cornell's going to be able to give us on what's going on, but everyone's welcome to join us if they'd like or have extra time. Thank you.
Questions or comments for the Tompkins Intergovernmental Relations Committee? Mike Lane.
Shauna, we got an email today that Cornell has appointed a new vice president for intergovernmental relations. Would be nice to be able to meet that person at some point, and hopefully your committee can be talking with him.
Absolutely. Yeah, I don't know if they have started yet or if our committee will be a priority for them.
September is what I read.
Okay.
Kyle Kimball starts September 15th. He's the current Vice President of Government Relations and Community Engagement at New York University.
Okay, we are up to Resolution L, which was added to the agenda.
Song reference for Maury. Resolution L, ID 13473, schedule a public hearing of 2025 New York State Community Development Block Grant assistance, and I would move.
Thank you. And seconds?
Just this is procedural for all CDBG Community Development Block Grant applications. You have to have a properly noticed public hearing prior to the final submittal of the application. The public hearing would be scheduled for September 2nd, 2025 at 5:30 in the Legislature chambers. And the final funding round deadline is September 19th. This was brought as a member file just because of timing for that. This public hearing would support two efforts. Department of Planning and Sustainability's application for the housing strategy update. They received approval to move forward from a pre-application to the full application this past week. And it will also serve a CDBG application being prepared by Environmental Health and INHS for septic replacement funding.
Okay, any further discussion? Veronica.
It's not a big deal and I'll vote for this, but if the public hearing is not until September 2nd, why did this have to come to this meeting as opposed to the next legislature meeting, which it seems like would still have time?
Katrina would like to tell us what.
There's a state regulation involved where this needs to be noticed a little bit earlier than the normal time frame.
Yeah, if we waited till that meeting, it wouldn't be timely.
It's a different public notice schedule than our public notice schedule.
Any other discussion? Resolution L. Ready to vote? All in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. Thank you, everybody. So we want to move the minutes to the previous meeting, July 15th, 2025. Deborah moves, Travis seconds. Any discussion? Vote then, all in favor? Any opposed? That is unanimous. And is there any unfinished business? Okay, adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
I went a while ago. Veronica.